Wait, is this thing on?
It's
Are
on.
we off and rolling? It's only day number 2.
I think we are off and rolling.
We are off and rolling. I like how you put a little bass in that voice over there, right? Like, so this is hour number 3 for you. You've had a busy morning. I think this is just the norm for you.
This is. We're getting used to it. We're getting used to it. It's all good.
So what time is it? Time to grip it and rip it, right?
It's
that's
time
what we're
to grip
doing.
it and rip it. It's never been more time to grip it and rip it than 12 to 2 on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Very cheesy, very corny, but I like it. What time is it? Then you say grip it and rip it, and then we're getting in the flow. We're getting in the flow. Much better start than the other day.
For sure.
That was not on you. That was on me. I was like, whenever the ones, because I was so like focused on like what I needed to get done to as far as what we were going to talk about. When he said, "Oh, you're on live," I'm like, "Wait, what? Oh yeah, we have a show to do." So you're 2 hours in, you're loose, you're ready to rock. I've been up since 4. All right, I got a fresh haircut.
It looks good.
I got to look good heading into the weekend, right? So
you can't get the new tattoo and have an old haircut. You got to be on 100% going into the weekend.
So I was a little worried about the tattoo kind of bleeding through on the old white shirt. So far, so good.
I think you look good.
So far, so good. I already I got bit by the bug. I'm ready to get more tattoos. I'm gonna get a little sleeve in my mid-30s. I don't know if that counts as a midlife crisis or what.
No, we won't throw that word around.
You have tattoos?
I don't have any tattoos.
You don't have Joe Burrow's face like tattooed like on your chest?
Well, I might get him
creepy?
playing the piano as a back piece coming up soon. So it depends on how these injuries start going. But yeah, no tattoos. But yeah, I'm in the market for a few. I have a list of a couple I want to get. So probably in the near future. Need some money first.
Money is the key thing. Yeah, I forgot about that too. That little aspect. People don't just draw on you for free.
Right.
Who would have thunk it as far as that's concerned. But grip it and rip it. We welcome you in. Oh, let's hit mute on that. There we go. See, Blackmore said, Kenner, what day is today? What day is today?
It's Friday.
It's Friday, right? But I didn't know if he was setting me up for something.
I think it's just Friday. I think everyone's just happy to be here on Friday.
So happy Friday, Blackmore. Appreciate that. Did that haircut come with the free hat? Is it a bad haircut?
I think it looks good.
Did the guy do a bad job?
I'm a fan of the crisp fade. I think it's a good look.
Thank you very much.
Travis Kelce haircut, as they say, right? Wasn't that the headline?
Yes, exactly. And people got offended by it, like they do everything, right? Like it is what. It's Trump's birthday, apparently. Oh, it is Trump's birthday.
Happy birthday!
Did you see he
45.
went on the what's Logan Paul's podcast?
God
dang it!
I forget the name, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It was actually Impulsive. But Trump did the podcast with Logan Paul. Thought that was pretty cool, actually.
I'll have to check it out.
But Trump knows what he's going after the younger audience, Hang out with Impulsive,
The votes have to go somewhere.
So there you go. All right, so who you voting for? And what political stance? No.
What a start.
We'll stay away from that.
Day 2 of the show.
That does not count in Grip It and Rip It, that's for sure. But Grip It and Rip It will kick off the show, of course, with a little news, not news. We'll throw out a couple headlines just to kind of some stories that are floating around in the sports world, of course. And we'll decide if the headline is newsworthy or news or not news, basically, if you will. I think this first one is news. I got to tell you, this came out just about an hour ago while you guys were on. Off the Bench, by the way. Great show. So the Chiefs have been sporting their Super Bowl rings, right?
Right.
Did you see that there might be a little error?
No.
They might have made a little mistake. The Super Bowl ring appears to have a typo listing the Dolphins, not a huge one, but it's just, again, listing the Dolphins as the 7th seed when they were actually the 6th seed. The Pittsburgh Steelers were technically the 7th seed, so there you go. But, so apparently the Super Bowl ring for the Kansas City Chiefs for their 2nd straight Super Bowl, of course, a little bit of a typo. Not a big deal. It's inside the ring, but with as much money as they brag about spending on them damn things, you would think you can get a little seed right?
Couldn't you just
news,
Google,
not news?
Couldn't you just Google the playoff bracket? Yeah, I think that's pretty clearly news. If I was a Chiefs player or coach or even a staff member that might not get a second ring, I'd be pretty upset having an error on mine. I don't know if are the Chiefs going to change it? Is that falling on the players and coaches if they want to get that corrected? If they want to get an edit to the ring?
Why put anything inside the ring to begin with? It's inside the ring.
Yeah.
Like, no one's going to be – so, like, they didn't even have to show – but, again, it's not them that is admitting the mistake or whatever. But, I mean, that would seem like wasted effort trying to come up with a design to put inside the ring.
Now, I'm going to say this sounds bad coming off. All 4 of my rings have interior designs as well. So
hold on. What do you mean all 4 of your rings? Who are you? I forgot.
Three SEC championship rings and a national championship ring.
So what did you do at Alabama?
I filmed all games and practices for the football team. I traveled to everything. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Well, you didn't tell me that. You're a lot more interesting now than I thought you were. That's pretty damn cool. So you actually have rings.
4 of them. The SEC one from this year hasn't come in yet, but I got sized and everything and paid for it.
And you don't wear those because?
I wore it to graduation. I wear it to some formal events, but I mean they're pretty big. They take up a whole knuckle. So I don't wear them a whole lot, but I'll bring them in someday.
You're bringing them in
Grip It and
on Monday. Grip it and rip it.
Sounds good.
I want to see these rings. So you're SEC. So do you have a national championship ring?
2020 when Alabama beat Ohio State. I have the national championship ring.
Look at you. National champion Jacob Tissett. Why am I so late to knowing this about you? I knew you went to Alabama, but I didn't know you were actually involved with the team and stuff. That's pretty cool.
Well, I didn't play or anything, so
doesn't matter.
I feel weird always talking about it. But yeah, no, it is very cool that they're sitting on my counter right under my TV in my room. So it's cool to always look at them, get watches and stuff too from winning bowl games. So
you need more of an ego.
It's pretty cool.
You need to let people know you have that ring. You really do. You really need to let people know that you have that ring, as far as I'm concerned. But grip it and rip it, news or not news. Moving down the list here, a little association talk, a little National Basketball Association. So obviously, I think the Golden State Warriors' little dynasty, right, I think has come to an end. Would you say?
I would say so.
Now, this might potentially change that, maybe not. Curious your thoughts. Jimmy Butler's name is being floated around as a potential big name that they are targeting here in the offseason. The Golden State Warriors. So you're going to have Steph Curry. Klay Thompson might be moving on, but Klay Thompson moving on. You bring in Jimmy Butler along with Steph Curry. Draymond get his behind out of there. Maybe you keep him. I don't know. But does Jimmy Butler to the not to the Thunder? I'm sorry, I don't know why I said the Thunder. The Warriors. Does that do anything for you?
Yeah,
news,
I think that's
news.
I think that's news. I think if the Warriors can deviate from that core that was so dominant about a decade ago now, and 2016, 17, 18, if they step away from Klay Thompson and Draymond Green and put some superstars, a superstar, maybe 2 around Steph Curry and try to elongate his career instead of just putting the ball in his hands every time and relying on him to do everything offensively for that team. If you can get a guy like Jimmy Butler to take some of the weight off him as he gets up there in age, I think they could get back into the mix in a pretty deep Western Conference. But with teams like the Timberwolves who are young, the Nuggets who are young and really dominant with guys like Jokic and Jamal Murray, it's going to take more than just Jimmy Butler, I think. But if they can get some good rotational pieces around him and Steph Curry, that could make a big difference in the Western Conference.
One more NBA points here on news, not news. And by the way, I do think that's news because I think that the Warriors dynasty is officially done. But I'm not saying that this guarantees that the dynasty's back, but it does open that door. The one thing about the NBA right now, people hated the super team era, but the ratings were better during the super team era than they are right now. So I don't know if that necessarily matches that take necessarily. However, there's so much parity around the NBA, and I don't know, it has not led to the interest that I thought that it would. But Jimmy Butler, if he does potentially land, and I don't think he will, but if he does end up with the Warriors, that would kind of put them back in that contender category as far as that's concerned.
I saw a nugget as well that they might be considering bringing Kevin Durant home if the Suns blow it up. There's talk. So that's where he was most effective.
Do you think they'll play the "I'm coming home" little jingle?
I guess Thunder would probably be home for Kevin Durant, but that's where he was most effective in his career was Golden State. So if they could bring him back, if the Suns end up blowing it up, there's been talk about them trading Bradley Beal as well. So we will see what happens. There might be some major star turnover in the NBA this summer.
Home. Kevin Durant has a home. That's pretty wild. Yes, OKC I think would be his home. But yeah, look, when you win a championship somewhere, I think that gives you that base to where you could potentially return. Like if LeBron returned to Miami, which he won't, that's not home.
Right.
But it would make – I mean, he won multiple championships there as far as that's concerned. But, all right, news, not news. One more on the NBA. The Los Angeles Clippers, apparently, reports are out there that they are interested in adding Jeff Van Gundy to Ty Lue's staff. News or not news?
I think it's not news. I think the head coach in the NBA, it does matter, but I wonder how much it does. It always comes down to as the best player on the floor more often than not. And as you go down the coaching staff, rarely do I really think that assistant coaches, even if they're the number 2 or number 3 coach on the staff, really move the needle that much. I mean, Van Gundy's a great coach and established announcer. He knows what he's doing, but I don't really think it moves the needle. Any assistant coach across the board. I mean, you saw Darvin Ham was the number 1 assistant coach in the entire NBA when the Bucks won the title, and he goes to LA and doesn't really work out. So I think it just comes down to who the best players are on the floor.
I think it's news but not because it's the Clippers. It's because it's L.A. and there's Jeff Van Gundy, who would be a highly sought after head coach, free agent if that was the case. And you got the Lakers, who are acting like, well, there's just no one out there. I guess we'll have to just give it to J.J. Redick, who I like J.J. Redick, by the way. But if I'm the Los Angeles Lakers, if I'm serious about trying to win, I'm contacting if Jeff Van Gundy truly does have an interest in getting back into coaching. I have no clue why the Lakers have not prioritized making him their next head coach. And I kind of have as much as I like LeBron, I still think at the end of the day, this really does come down to the fact that I think he doesn't want to play for an established head coach.
Totally agree.
21 years in the NBA. This will be his 10th different head coach that he's played for. 6 of those 10 head coaches were all first-year head coaches. He's always wanted guys that I know you and I disagree on this, that he could put his thumb on, or at least have when those two are in the room, when you have a first-year head coach and LeBron in the room, and the team is going through a little bit of a drought, who do you think they're going to respond to? The first-year head coach, who everyone's questioning whether they actually have control of the situation, or the 4-time NBA champion, MVP, guaranteed future first ballot Hall of Famer, all this thing? You think they're going to listen to him? LeBron doesn't want to share the room when it comes to a power struggle. I think he would have to do that with Van Gundy. I think he would have had to do that a little bit with Hurley. I don't think he'll have to do that with J.J. Redick. I don't think he had to do that with Ty Lue, David Blatt, anyone. And David Blatt technically tried to give a little pushback, and LeBron pushed him out the door as far as that's concerned. So to me, Jeff Van Gundy should be one of their top priorities, but he won't be. I don't think LeBron wants to play for an established coach, and I think that's why every time there's a free agent or a coaching vacancy when it comes to a LeBron-led team, it's always a former player or a former teammate of his, somebody that he's buddy-buddy with. I still don't think it's going to be Van Gundy, no doubt.
Was this podcast just a long head coaching interview? Is that all it was?
I saw Brian Windhorst say that. I guess this weekend will be the first formal interview between the Lakers and J.J. Redick.
But J.J. already has a staff built, apparently.
Yeah. So apparently, but that's the thing with the NBA. I've always said, even the worst coach in the NBA knows more about basketball than 98% of the world. Like, it's not an X's and O's thing. Some coaches have the X's and O's down more than others. It's about execution in the final 4 minutes of a game.
For sure.
6 minutes of a game, whatever. Final, this in a clutch moment. It's whether you can hold a locker room together. You're dealing with egos upon egos. You're an ego manager, this, that, and the other. So we shall see as far as that's concerned. Again, Grip It and Rip It live here on Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. Welcome in. If you're just jumping in on the YouTube side, welcome. I see on Twitter a lot of people jumping in on there as well. Make sure you follow Chatterbox Sports on Twitter at CBox Sports. Do that as well. Make sure you jump in the conversation there. We'll get to the YouTube comments coming up in just a moment. News, not news. The All-Women's Basketball Association, of course, Women's National Basketball Association. News, not news. The WNBA, despite their rise in popularity because of this great rookie class, wink, they are still on pace to lose $50 million. Despite the rise in popularity, all right, maybe they jumped the gun on the whole private, flight situation there. Maybe they shouldn't have jumped the gun there. I would have got Caitlin her own private little plane and jet to take her from game to game. That would have really ticked people off, right? But news or not news, the WNBA is expected to lose $50 million despite their major rise in popularity this season.
I think it's news because we've forced it to be news. I really don't think this is a news story. I mean, the WNBA has lost money every single year that they've existed. This is an improvement.
Do you hate women, dude?
I think you're
I'm sure
that's what the chat's
dude?
going to start saying here in a second. But look, the WNBA, this is what they've been. They've been a losing money league that wouldn't exist without the NBA's backing. The NBA gives them over $60 million a year, which is what keeps them afloat. So I don't really think this is news. This is the expectation. I think it's the new fans that don't really understand what that league is and what that league has become that expected them to be, clearing massive profits this year because of Caitlin Clark. Could that come in the future? Sure, maybe. We'll see. But right now, I think this is more of an expectation for anyone that knows what the WNBA has been.
First of all, you're right. It is news because it's a negative talking point that people are just using to bury a league that I think is doing a horrible job as far as marketing their number one star in the sport right now. And I think that's a problem. So with that, I think it's news because of that. Look, that's why I was surprised when they talked about adding an expansion team and they're doing private flights, this, that, and the other. I'm like, it's kind of wild. How about this? This ticked me. I came in complaining about this. I'm always, apparently I hate women's sports too because I don't, but, it is what it is. If you say anything bad about the women's league, you just hate women's sports, this, that, the other. But I'm tired of being by the WNBA analyst trying to talk to us as if we don't know basketball.
Right.
That we need to be educated on basketball. How about this? Shanae Agumake says that, she goes, I think that, this is her quote, we're going to start adding some little sound bites and clips as this thing goes on once we get real control of this. Keep that in mind. But Shanae says, I think that with all the growth that Caitlin Clark has brought, it has brought a lot of growing pains. Now you have the opportunity to educate people who are coming with you so that hopefully the focus can be on the game. Maybe the growing interest in the game is not a growing interest in the game. It's just simply the growing interest in the one particular player that's making your league relevant at this point. That's not an opinion. It's not a hot take. It's just the numbers are backing that up. They keep putting the data out there. Okay, every arena that Caitlin Clark walks into, sold out arenas, attendance through the roof. Every game that she plays on TV, it's the highest rated games in the league. The numbers are telling you that we don't need to be educated. I think you do. I think that the WNBA analysts and the do-gooders out there, y'all need to be educated on this as far as that's concerned. Jacob, let me put it this way. Let's say a mom-and-pop restaurant in town, okay? No one's ever heard of them. They don't have a marketing budget, but, they rely on word of mouth around town. But you know what? They know Jeff Ruby, right? So Ruby says, I like these people. They seem like good people. I'm going to allow you to sell my steaks at your mom-and-pop restaurant. Now, everyone lines up outside the door at this local mom-and-pop restaurant that they've never heard of because they are following the great steaks, right? They want that steak at that restaurant. They have great lasagna. No one's ever heard of it, okay? They have They have great. They have a great menu, but no one's ever heard of it. They're not there for the menu, though. They're not there for the great lasagna. They are there for that steak. And then when they walk in, and they fill up this small restaurant. They showed up because of that steak. They never heard of this restaurant before until they heard of this steak, right? So they go in, everyone orders this steak. And then imagine if the owner and the employees come out and they're mad. I can't believe none of you like the lasagna. I can't believe none of you ordered the spaghetti. I can't believe none of you have tried our world famous French fries. I mean, this is a weird restaurant. Lasagna, French fries, cheeseburger. It is what it is, right? That's what the WNBA sounds like. You should just be happy that you are putting asses in seats, whether they are there for the lasagna or for the steak. Who cares? It really doesn't matter. Be happy with the people that are showing up. But imagine if those people that are coming in to enjoy this new steak at this mom and pop restaurant that no one's ever heard of, they're going to not show up anymore because, I'm enjoying the steak, but I'm being scolded by the waitress. I'm being scolded by the owner because I want this steak. This is the only thing I came here for, but they're mad because I don't want the lasagna. That's what the league's doing. And it's ticket. I don't need to be told I need to educate myself. Now that I'm here because of Caitlin Clark, I need to educate myself on that. No. Y'all need to educate yourself on the fact on why people are tuning in, and maybe less negativity from that side of the table might lead to those people trying some of that lasagna maybe. I'm sorry for the weird references, but I think you understand where I'm coming from with this, right?
I think that's a perfect analogy.
Thank you, Jacob.
Why are you pushing
national champion Jacob?
Why push, willing customers, willing consumers out just because they might not like the masses? If they like one thing, attach yourself to that one thing and grow your sport and grow your brand. I mean, we talked about Caitlin Clark not being on the Olympic team at length on Wednesday. We talked about it on Off the Bench earlier this week as well. And look, you can say she might not be deserving of being one of the best players or not. That's fine. We can have that debate. But I think the debate is so beyond statistics because she's the biggest name in the sport and she's what people watch. And you have a piece of time right now where you can actually capitalize on that and maybe become a profitable league. And you just seem to be turning your cheek at that because it's not the veteran players, the established presence that isn't getting the love that they want. Sorry, it's just how it works sometimes. You don't get to choose as a league what the fans enjoy. You have to adapt the league to cater to what the fans want to watch. And obviously the fans want to watch Caitlin Clark. The Fever are well below 500, one of the worst teams in the league, and they're still up at the top of viewership in the WNBA. There's no question when people want to watch. It's Caitlin Clark, and for some reason the WNBA is mad about that. I don't really understand it.
Yeah, I mean, look, the bottom line is the NBA, I mean, they do that with LeBron when he came in. They did it with Wembanyama. They're leaning into it. No one's saying, LeBron's not saying, hey, why is everyone paying attention to Wembanyama? I've been working my tail off. This isn't that difficult. I don't need to be educated to watch the league. Okay, it's really not that difficult. Stop gaslighting the new fans coming to your restaurant because of the one entree that they want to try. Maybe if you didn't scold them, they would maybe take a peek at the rest of the menu as far as that's concerned. All right, Justin Kinner, Jacob Tissett, grip it and rip it. Last one here, news, not news. Chestnut versus Kobayashi, unfinished beef.
All caps NEWS news. This would be like LeBron and Jordan in the middle of both of their primes playing one-on-one pay-per-view. I mean, unbelievable television. If Joey Chestnut getting banned from the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest is what it takes to get him versus Kobayashi one more time, sign me up. I mean, I cannot wait for this. This is going to be unbelievable. Probably the biggest eating event of our lifetime. It's going to be awesome.
You like competitive eating? Like that does something for you?
Every single 4th of July, I am right in front of my TV watching the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest.
It makes me nauseous,
I
dude.
love it. I love it. I actually competed in the youth hot dog eating contest in Cincinnati. I finished 27th when I was younger. And
27th and a national
top
champion?
25 go on to the state whatevers from Cincinnati. So I missed the cut just barely. But, yeah, I love, as a fellow competitor, I love competitive eating.
So, I mean, I eat a lot, as you could tell. Okay, I like to, participate in eating here and there. Not competitively, of course. Okay, not competitive. But listen, there are way more Jacobs than Kinners when it comes to this stuff because Netflix is not paying what they're paying to put this special out there. By the way, PR win for them.
Huge.
He wanted it to be known that he got banned from the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest because he knew that he was going to be front and center of the talking point of everything going on. And then, bam, announced the Netflix special, and that's what's going on. But the Ultimate Hot Dog Eating Competition will air live on Netflix Monday, September 2nd. Kobayashi versus Chestnut, unfinished beef.
I'm sure we'll get some pretty good fanfare for that too. The ads and commercials I think will be pretty good. That time they ate against each other, about a decade ago now, when Kobayashi beat Chestnut before his most recent just crazy run of women, I think 8 in a row. That was awesome. It was one of the best hot dog eating contests of all time. So hopefully this lives up to the hype. I am a little bit worried that we have a Pacquiao Mayweather on our hands here though. If we get to it and it happens and, two biggest names in the sport and it doesn't live up to expectations, does that just kneecap Major League Eating for the rest of eternity? It definitely could be the case.
How could it not live up to, what are expectations? You're tuning in to watch two dudes shove soggy wieners in their mouth. I have no clue what can or not live up to expectation.
See,
If
it's back and forth and, they're competitive, that's great, but they both have to be in the 50s. In the low to mid 50s, probably for everyone to be happy. I mean, part of the allure of these two guys is that they're the record holders. So if they're back and forth and it's a close score at 35-40, which is just the normal winning number for not these these GOAT level players. So yeah, I think if the number has to be close to the 50s, if not in the 60s. So we'll see.
I see on. Oh no, I'll get to that later. But I did not know that you were a competitive eating aficionado.
Once a year on the 4th of July, but I love it.
I'm assuming, because we have a lot of great content creators here at Chatterbox, that a hot dog eating contest might be on the table. I'm assuming you guys have discussed that.
It was talked about yesterday.
That's what I thought. I never telling you guys how to do your job, but it doesn't surprise me that it has already been talked about as far as that's concerned. So who do you think is winning that? Who's participating? Or is that, we'll hold off on that until more details come?
Yeah, I don't want to sign any checks I can't cash, so I won't promise anything, but I like my own odds if I get in there. I like my own odds.
Wear the rings. I'm very well aware that on the Facebook page it does say that Justin Lawrence signs an extension with Jacksonville. Yes, I know it's Trevor Lawrence, not Justin Lawrence. It'll be fixed. People can relax. But a lot of spelling bee champs out there, by the way.
We'll see.
So
not my cup of tea.
Is what it is. But nonetheless, all right. That was news, not news. As we kick off. Grip it and rip it here on Chatterbox Sports. So Reds Brewers coming up later on tonight. I keep forgetting this is not like a radio show. I don't have to do my radio voice. I can just be like, hey, Reds Brewers playing later on tonight. How about that?
Just relax. Put the shoulders down over there.
I need a beer. That's what I need. So we'll get to the Reds Brewers stuff coming up here in just a little bit. You're from around here,
yeah,
correct?
From Cincinnati. Born and raised.
What high school did you go to?
St. Xavier.
So when you were in high school, did your team ever make it to the state championship in basketball?
In basketball, no.
No? Okay. But do you ever go to the state championships in basketball?
Not for basketball, I didn't.
Whether it was in Columbus or Dayton. So this may not be a big deal to you. I am curious people's thoughts in the YouTube in the chat, and we'll just spend a little bit of time on there. We'll move on from it. But I am curious. So the OHSA announced recent changes to that because they now instead of 4 divisions, there's now 7. Okay, so state championship weekend for high school basketball at UD Arena. It used to be at the Shot, then they moved it to UD Arena. You'd have, Thursday, you'd have Thursday and Friday be your semifinals, and then Friday be your championship, all in one weekend. And you as a high school basketball player, you couldn't wait. You wanted to punch your ticket to the state championships, even if you couldn't get to the state final. the state championship weekend, playing at UD Arena, playing at the Shot, whatever, like that was everything. And they went hand in hand. Like, you want to win the state championship, you want to get to the state title game, but at the same time, just getting to go play at the Shot or UD Arena, playing the, get the runner up, whatever it is, you want to get to the state level, right? Well, because they've expanded it to 7 divisions, it was a lot easier when you had 4. On Thursday you could do divisions 4 and 3, Friday divisions 2 and 1, and then Saturday, the state championship games for division 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, that's awesome. Now at 7, it makes it a little difficult because you have 3 days. You can't do semifinal matchups for all 7 divisions and then 7 state championship games all in one day. There was a lot of talk about how they would be able to do that. Well, apparently now semifinal weekend, state semifinals will be held the weekend before the state championship. Now, for you football people out there, it's not a big deal, right? Like, for football, that's how it is. You play your semifinal the weekend before. Are you a state champion in football too?
I'm not.
Loser. I knew you were a loser at something.
My high school won it the year before I got on varsity and my freshman year of college, my last year right off the team. So sandwiched my career with state championship wins. Very upsetting.
Nothing sadder than at my parents when they have all my participation trophies up on the wall. That was the season I sat the bench for.
Nice.
Oh, that's the year that I got one at bat for, Awesome. So bowling trophies. That's where it was at, dude.
Very nice.
Very, very nice.
Maybe a Chatterbox Bowling is in the near future, and you can take it home.
Something I can win. I don't know about that hot dog eating contest, but the bowling thing, I can get in on that as far as that's concerned. But, yeah, I'm not a fan of moving the semifinals to the weekend before. But the OHS, I don't know. I say that I'm doing what I hate when people do. I complain without offering a solution. But going to 7 divisions, it was never going to be able to make sense. I guess in Kentucky, they do an entire week.
Wow.
They do they block off an entire week and do this semifinals and finals for all of their, and I don't think they call it divisions. I don't know. Every state's different.
Class.
It's like class and all that. I'm not sure what Kentucky does, but yeah, I just found that to be interesting. And as I'm stalling, trying to find the YouTube tab, there it is. Nonetheless, but all right. What do you have? Do you have anything? Because I'm hogging all the mic time over here.
No, you're good. I'm not too familiar with the Ohio State basketball situation, but separating it like that, yeah, that definitely takes away some of the allure of being in the Final Four. Part of the whole thing is getting there the same weekend, like you said. So that makes it a little bit less, I guess, meaningful to get to the Final Four. You need to get to that final game in order to get that experience. So yeah, that's not great. I'm personally against adding the more divisions in basically all sports. I understand that it makes it more competitive for smaller schools, and maybe I only feel that way because I went to a Division I school. But I feel like state champion loses its weight when there's 7, 8, 9, 10 divisions, like, in some of these bigger schools. Like, I don't know, not that state champion should necessarily be one person. I understand that school size and everything, that would make it completely uncompetitive for most of the state. But 3 or 4 max, I think, is the number I would kind of settle in. I don't know, just when you get to 7 or 8 state champions, what does it really mean?
Well, because it's just all being, there's so many high schools too, so it's just trying to give. And I don't like. No, I don't like when No, I'm with you. I don't like it either.
Okay.
I don't like, in football when they added more playoff teams. I thought that was silly too. I thought,
I agree.
You want to win a state championship, but that's very, very difficult to do, and it was difficult to even make the playoffs. So when you made the playoffs, that was almost like as great of an accomplishment as winning it all, because it's like you have your class reunions decades later. Oh, they were part of that. That playoff team, right? Well, now everyone gets in the playoff.
Exactly.
So it's not that much of an accomplishment. I don't like that as far as that's concerned.
Nick puts in the chat that he would suggest separating public and private schools, which I think would be a great idea. That's sometimes a bigger discrepancy in schools, both in funding and size and being able to recruit and whatnot, than actual school size. That
would make too much sense.
Right. That's always the thing that holds up the government decisions.
So with the 7 divisions, the other thing that they did too was they allowed teams to be able to move up a division if they wanted to, which sounds really wild. So there's this team over in Cleveland. It's Richmond Heights, okay? Richmond Heights, it is wild. So if you ever go to a state championship weekend, and it's completely different now, end of an era last year with the Final Fours there, but you go to your Division IV games, and it's those small little farm school kids, like they look like me, okay? They're not very tall, they're not very athletic, but they try hard, okay? They bless their little hearts, okay? But then they're playing this team that is Richmond Heights, okay? It's all Division I basketball talent. It is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. And they are just bludgeoning teams by like 50. It's absolutely insane. Division IV, right? They should be in Division I. They would win Division I. This team has won, like, I think, back-to-back, maybe 3 straight state. I think it's at least back-to-back state championships.
Wow.
Okay, out of Division IV, bludgeoning every team. They play a national schedule. They're not playing, they'll play some local teams, but they're traveling all over the state, and they're playing outside of the state. They're playing a national schedule. They're like one of the top teams in the country.
Wow.
Okay, and they're in Division IV. They're going up against teams like Russia. They're going up against teams like Convoy Crestview, which is up where I'm from in the Van Wert, Ohio area. Okay, bludgeoning them. And these cute little fan bases, they show up to the arena and they fill it up, and they're like, by golly, if we just play hard, teamwork, pass the ball, ball movement, beef, Have you heard beef?
I've heard beef.
Yeah. Fundamentals, dude. It's all about the fundamentals. Arrive early, stay late, do what you got to do, right? They truly think they have a shot. It's the most adorable thing I've ever seen. I had a parent get mad at me because he goes, I think we got a shot. If we come out and shoot the ball, I'm telling you right now, you could jump up 100 on them. They're beating you by 200. Like, it's not happening. No, I think they got a shot. Well, it was like real close. It was like Crestview and Richmond Heights. Well, Crestview's like, they're like up or by 1 or down by 2 heading into halftime, and the parents coming up. I told you. They got outscored 38-2 in the third quarter.
Oh, my gosh.
I have never rooted for a small team to lose in my life because I was dealing with that delusion. I'm like, I'm all for you being there for your kids and wanted to, but come on.
That's crazy.
I say all this because this team has the opportunity now with the rules you could choose to move up and play in Division I, and they're choosing not to. I actually applaud that. Good for them. They are staying put in Division IV.
If they don't force you to move up, just keep dominating, I guess. So stack the rings, stack the trophies.
And we see teams do this in Division I and II and III, in Division I and II more than anything all the time. These, let's be real. Like these dominant teams, like all these kids were born at the same time and they all just happen to be elite at basketball and they all just happen to grow up together. No, that didn't happen, right? What was the school here close to Cincinnati? Deer Park? That won a state championship years ago. They went like 28-0. They were like undefeated.
Oh, wow.
And they didn't have any all-state players, but everyone was mad because they brought in a bunch of players from out of state. Okay? They win this. They go undefeated, win this state championship. People are mad. And the fans and coach comes out and says, well, we won. We didn't have any all-state players. I'm like, you had a lot of state players. You had players from Indiana. You had players from, all over. What are you talking about, dude? Like, so these teams get formed all the time. These little mini super teams, right? Like, because the parents, they just want their kid to be like our guy Jacob Tissett here. Rings on each finger, dude. Quite a flex. I love it, dude. So I say that because you see that in the Divisions I and II. I've always said, if you're going to form a team, why are you doing that in Division I and II? Go do it in Division IV. And now we're watching it with Richmond Heights. It is the coolest thing in the world. I love the bully ball. I love the fact.
I appreciate it.
I mean, I've never seen so many Division I college coaches at a D4 state basketball game in my life. It is the coolest thing.
That is
the
cool. Dieblers
were there last year to watch. Jake Diebler takes over for Chris Holtman. Okay, he's there at Anthony Grant for Dayton's there. All this stuff. I mean, like everyone's there to watch this Division IV team, super team. It's awesome.
That is cool. That's cool.
No fans, by the way. They have no fans.
Oh, of course,
No
right?
fans. It's the worst atmosphere you can imagine.
Yeah, good for the other kids on the team too, not just the D1, D4 or Division IV products in the state. Finally getting some looks from some top coaches. Maybe you can surprise some people if you're not a big name. That's always good for them. You always think about the big names that are getting the recognition, but there's other guys on the roster that get looks too from D2, D3 schools just because people are watching those big name highlights. So it trickles all the way down.
I didn't mean to hijack the show with high school sports talk, but I just thought those two things were kind of interesting nonetheless. So last night, not Justin Lawrence, just to be clear, in the rundown or the write up on Facebook and stuff, it says Justin Lawrence. Very well, I'm leaving it there. I don't even want to change it.
Gotcha.
Doubling down.
Fair
I'm
enough.
like Richmond Heights, dude. I'm not moving up a division. I'm staying. It's Justin Lawrence for this conversation. Okay. So you saw it. What happened, right?
Right.
Trevor Lawrence, highest paid quarterback in the NFL now. Joe Burrow's days are numbered. He's a bum.
That was my takeaway as well.
Yeah, I was like, oh, Joe Burrow, he's not worthy of being the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Get that bum out of there with his little wrist, But here comes. I mean, I haven't seen a head of hair more impressive since your head of hair right over here. But Trevor Lawrence now, 5-year, $275 million contract extension. Now the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Him and Joe Burrow both make $55 million a year. Poors, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, they really.
Scraping
I think
the bottom
I saw
of the barrel.
Burrow out here with the can, asking for spare change before, on the way in here. But Trevor Lawrence, again, he was due to be paid. The Jaguars get it done. Good for them, okay? But here's the problem. And Trevor Lawrence to me has been what's your takeaway, Trevor Lawrence? Has he lived up to the hype considering what he was in college, what he was built up to be in college? Has he lived up to the hype technically?
Well, I certainly don't think so. I mean, he was a bona fide superstar in college, bar none the best quarterback in college football. He's the best quarterback in high school, and he was one of the best prospects of my lifetime coming into the draft. You know, people talk about best prospects. It's Andrew Luck, Joe Burrow, and Trevor Lawrence in recent memory. And, you know, some people throw Caleb Williams in there. That's great and all. We'll see what he does in the NFL. But, Trevor was expected to take a lowly Jaguars team and do what Joe Burrow did with this Bengals team and make them competitors quickly. And he hasn't done that. I mean, they were 9-3 last year and didn't win enough games to make the playoffs. So that tells you a little bit something about what he's been able to do. Obviously, he has that comeback playoff win against the Chargers when they were down about 30 points. So that bolsters his legacy a little bit. But I still point to that game as one of the biggest coaching blunders of all time by Brandon Staley, and he obviously lost his job because of it. So I don't know how much credit I give to Trevor Lawrence in that sense. Reed put it in the simplest terms this morning that I think I can get behind. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is worth $55 million. But if you're the Jaguars, what are your other options? Your other options are to let him walk and go elsewhere. He's not signing a contract for less than 50, and you spin the top again and try to take someone else in the draft and hope they pan out and are better than Trevor Lawrence. Or you pay him and you say, look, if this quarterback is good and can compete, we're going to compete in the NFL. And if he's not, we're screwed for the next 5 years. But it is what it is, and I think that's kind of where they put themselves. And though I don't think he's worth $55 million. I don't really think they had another option. So I am okay with it, even though if I was a Jaguars fan, I wouldn't be too stoked because, you lost Calvin Ridley, you lost some pieces on that defense. I don't really know what that roster is going to look like this year. You're expecting a lot out of guys like Gabe Davis and rookie Brian Thomas Jr. So you don't have a lot of room to work with now with a big quarterback contract like that. You're going to need a lot out of Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, so I agree with everything you said. Now, the Jaguars, what are you going to do? And I agree because you're not going to let Trevor Lawrence to me has not lived up to the hype though. He was, there were people that said that after that first year when he wins that national championship at Clemson, right? He wins that national championship at Clemson as a freshman, right? He takes, I think Kelly Bryant, I think that was the name, that was the name of the quarterback for Clemson.
Yeah.
And I think he was like 3-4-0 to start the season, but they were undefeated, all right, but they were missing something. So Dabo decides to pull the trigger, puts Trevor Lawrence in. Trevor Lawrence, they go on to just bludgeon everybody. They win the national championship, and great story. People said if he could have come, he was the reason that people started doing the whole, why do they got to wait 3 years before? That's how dominant he was. True freshman quarterback coming in, leading Clemson to a national championship. That's how dominant he was. Everyone said he would have been the number one quarterback taken in that year's draft. And I don't even remember what draft would that have been, 19?
18, no.
So 18. Who was
17 national championships? No, that was Deshaun. Clemson won too many national championships right there.
It's hard to keep up.
It was Clemson, Alabama for about a decade.
But either way, so that was the talk about that, right? So that's what got all the chatter going about we got to get rid of the 3-year rule and all this stuff. They should just be able to come out whenever they want, this, that, and the other. And he would have been the number one overall pick that year. That's how dominant Trevor Lawrence was. He never won, he didn't win a Heisman and all this, that, and the other. But ultimately, the Jaguars, they get that pick. They draft Trevor Lawrence. He does end up becoming the number one. But he's never looked like it.
Right.
People wanted to blame friend of Chatterbox Sports, Urban Meyer. They wanted to blame him. All right. He didn't have a problem with Trevor. He had a kickers. Okay. He didn't mess up Trevor Lawrence. But Trevor Lawrence, that was a bad year. Obviously, they needed to make the coaching change, and they did. Doug Peterson comes in, and he's looked good. But not a guy like Joe Burrow, no question about it. I'm a Joe Burrow hater, right? No, there was not a doubt in my mind that he deserved every single penny that he got, 55 mil, everything that he got, right? There's no doubt. Lamar, there's doubt there. Maybe that's a bad example. Like Patrick Mahomes, when he won that Super Bowl and they made him the highest paid quarterback. At that time, he was the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. First quarter it was a $500 million deal, $500 million contract over 10 years, whatever it was. No one doubted that. No one had an issue with it. All right. Even Justin Herbert, who is not as accomplished, he is unlike Joe Burrow. He hasn't led a team to a Super Bowl. He didn't have any MVPs like Lamar Jackson. He hadn't even been, you know what I mean? He hasn't won a Super Bowl like Patrick Mahomes. He hasn't been to a Super Bowl like Joe Burrow. He has no MVPs like Lamar Jackson. Even when the Chargers paid him, yeah, that makes sense. No one's doubting it. No one's questioning it. Josh Allen, same thing. No one's doubting it. No one's questioning. But you look at Trevor Lawrence, and I'm like, 55 seems like a lot. It seems like a lot. And I don't know if you heard, was it Tua Tagovailoa last week? When he was asked about it, he goes, are you willing to take less to keep the market's the market? And he's not wrong, but I hate that. I hate that the market is the market, and you and everyone watching this, as a fan, you should hate the market as well. Now, I don't know, you can't reset it, you can't do this, that, and the other, but like it really stinks that it's the next quarterback that's up to be paid. That's where it starts. Stop it. Like Joe Burrow deserved $55 million. That's coming from a hater. Trevor Lawrence does not deserve $55 million. He just doesn't.
You're in a conference with Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, very exciting young prospects as well as developed and proven NFL starters at the top of the line. Do you think Trevor Lawrence can win the AFC ever? It would have to take a perfect storm season for him to win the AFC, and that's talking about injuries and teams playing drastically below expectations. And if you can't talk yourself into your quarterback getting you to a Super Bowl, much less winning a Super Bowl, just getting there, I can't even picture Trevor Lawrence leading the Jaguars there with the current setup of the AFC. How do you stomach paying him this much money? If he's not a top 6 or 7 quarterback in his conference, how do you pay him $55 million?
This sounds a little wild, sounds a little interesting, but here, like if you look at the top tier quarterback money right now, Lawrence is there. But so there's the Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, this, that, and the other. Take the money out of it. Those quarterbacks right, and Goff is at 53. Where is Lawrence? Like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 quarterbacks making 51 or more in the NFL. All right, you have Trevor Lawrence 55 and Joe Burrow 55. Goff is at 53. Herbert and Jackson are at 52 mil, and then Jalen Hurts at 51. Where does Trevor Lawrence? Is he the worst of those?
Comfortably last? No.
I mean, Jalen Hurts last year. By the way, I thought Hurts looked awesome in that Super Bowl. I was a big fan of how he outperformed Patrick. He was the best quarterback in that Super Bowl, no doubt about it, right? But last year they took a major step back. The jury's still out. I think if you have back-to-back bad seasons or average seasons like Hurts did, then we can question that contract. But for right now, I'm still going to say I would take, if I had to choose right now, Jalen Hurts or Trevor Lawrence, I think I'm taking Hurts.
I wouldn't even think twice about it.
What about Goff? Goff's an interesting one, but I think Goff, right?
I think it is.
So
you also
agree.
have to think that Goff plays in the NFC, which is much less competitive. The Lions are a bona fide top 3 team in the NFC. He's not going to have the same problems of having to run into 2 of Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Lamar, CJ, like all that. He has a much easier road to the championship, and he did it with the Rams. He got to a Super Bowl. He got to the NFC Championship this year with the Lions, ending their 30-year NFC North divisional drought. Like, he's proven that he can win. Out of everyone on that list, the only 2 that haven't proven they can win are Lamar Jackson and Trevor Lawrence. And Lamar Jackson has the MVPs to bolster his name and his career outside of the playoff success. I have no questions about Lamar Jackson. I don't want you to take it that way. I know you might, but I think Lamar Jackson is a locked up good
hell of a running back. Top
4 or 5 quarterback in the league. So yeah, I think Trevor Lawrence and I guess Herbert really hasn't won anything either. But his statistical output is just so incredible.
Especially when you see like how many games, like Keenan Allen, when you looked at all the guys. I mean, there was a game last year where they did a graphic. I think every wide receiver he was playing with in that particular game, they were undrafted wide receiver. Like that's how decimated they were with injuries, and he was still top 5 statistically before he got hurt, was out for the rest of the year.
And we see what happened with the Chargers last year. Easton Stick comes in and plays a game, and the Raiders win by 60. And the Raiders are one of the worst teams in the entire league. So
I remember
Justin
when that
Herbert
happened. I'm like,
means a lot to that team.
I remember when they got beat by 6. I was like, oh yeah, it was a great day for Justin Herbert.
He was the biggest winner of that.
So that's the top tier quarterbacks money wise. Let's go to the second tier guys. Okay, and by the way, it's wild because Mahomes is in the second tier, right? But he's not a second tier quarterback. He's the best quarterback in the NFL. But I mean, now you have obviously Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, Cousins, Mahomes, Allen, Jones, Stafford, and Prescott. Okay. I mean, right now, Deshaun Watson with Houston, better than Trevor Lawrence.
Right.
The Deshaun Watson with Cleveland, no. I'm taking Trevor Lawrence over, okay? So I'm not a homer, being honest with you. Do want Watson to be healthy. When he's been healthy, he pushes the envelope. I'll still take Trevor Lawrence slightly for right now. But Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence.
You're asking the wrong guy if you think I'm going to say Trevor Lawrence. I am a huge Kyler Murray fan.
I am too.
He's one of my favorite players in the league. I'm taking Kyler easily.
Kyler Murray, outside of the question, like people questioning his leadership, this, that, and the other, I mean, he quietly had a great year last year. People, I mean, forgot. I mean, they were bad and all this, and I think the Cardinals could be like a sleeper team out of the NFC because they're just kind of forgot about people. Look at Murray. Murray's another one that when he signed that deal, everyone said, "Oh, that's what you get with the market." Yep. I think that was actually a good deal. This is another interesting one: Kirk Cousins or Trevor Lawrence. Like, as wild as this sounds, let's say that you are a team that has a stacked roster and you just need to drop a quarterback in, and Trevor Lawrence and Kirk Cousins are both available. I think I'm going with Cousins, and I know that sounds very weird. Maybe it's not. Is it weird? But it sounds weird.
I don't think it does.
Really? Okay, good.
Cousins has statistically been better than Trevor Lawrence, and you're only talking about a contract that in Cousins' case is 4 years long, and Trevor's it's 5 years long, so you're not looking super long term. I would take the next 4 years out of Kirk Cousins over the next 4 years out of Trevor Lawrence without thinking twice about it.
Ryan Roth on the Facebook page says a bust. Lawrence is a bust. He as far as that goes, I don't think he's a bust. Trevor Lawrence is a very good quarterback.
Right.
But $55 million a year should be saying you're a hell of a quarterback. Tua or Trevor Lawrence?
I think this is really close. Like, very close.
I'm taking Tua.
I would go Trevor just
yeah.
because of the health concerns with Tua. Trevor, obviously, he's been banged up before, but it's not the same as Tua. Tua with the concussions, with the hip injury in college, that's stuff that lingers, that's stuff that hurts. And obviously, Tua last year, when he went to Kansas City in the cold, he looked like a completely different quarterback than we've ever seen him. So I'm going to go Trevor, but Tua is much better statistically. The Dolphins have been better than the Jaguars have been with them, too, in their respective positions. So if you take Tua, I wouldn't blame you. I would be more comfortable paying Tua over Trevor, but I think I would take Trevor over Tua right now.
Man, if both are available, you have loaded rosters, you just need to drop a quarterback in. Man, I'm going to go with Tua. Because to Tua's credit, when Tua's out there, he's in MVP discussions.
Right.
When Tua's out there, his teams are at the top. Tua just can't stay out there. That's been the problem. But Tua, I think, is the better pro quarterback.
I absolutely agree. If you take out injury concerns and everything like that, it is absolutely Tua.
So as far as that goes. But I say that. I also am not a fan of when Tua said the market is the market, basically insinuating and so Tua will be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. I just don't think that the market.
And Dak will.
And then Dak will do it again. And Dak's another one who's very, very, very good. I don't put him in elite. He's still better than Trevor.
I think Dak's better than almost every quarterback we've named
as far as that.
Outside of that top tier.
But there's just something about him. Okay, I'm from Texas. Okay, so I grew up a Cowboys fan, and my family's all Cowboys fans. Moved to Ohio. That's why I became a Browns fan, this, that, and the other. It doesn't matter. Point is, I want to like Dak, but he doesn't do it for me. But he's way better than more than 75% of the league, so it's hard to sit there and say that you need to get rid of him. That's what's wild about it. But the market, to me, I hate the market talk because the market should reflect the highest paid guys are your best guys.
I agree.
Imagine in any company you work with, if
the next
one up, and maybe that's the case for some, and you're listening saying that's how it is, right? And that's fine. But I guess we work in that results-based type of place, so to me, it's like your pay should reflect your production.
Absolutely.
And I don't think that an NFL quarterback is, it's the market for an NFL quarterback. I think it should be the market for the particular team that you're playing for. And that bothers me. So being a Browns fan, when Baker Mayfield, his pay was up years ago, when he was up for to be paid, I remember that was a weird spot because I was screaming for him to get that 30 to 35. But the market would have put him at that 40 plus. I'm like, Baker's not now. That's what I know he gets in Tampa, but it's moved. But I'm not giving Baker 40.
I agree.
I'm not giving Baker 40. I'd give him that 30. He's a very good 35 mil at that time. You got to rewind back 35 a year. I'm fine with that. But I cannot stand the idea of the NFL market for a quarterback is this, so the next quarterback up gets paid. You know what happens when you do the market game? You get Daniel Jones. And that to me says you're playing a bad game at that point.
A quote like that, a quote of the market is the market from Tua leads me to believe, maybe I'm reading into it too much, but leads me to believe I don't think I'm the best quarterback in the league, but I'm asking for best quarterback money because that's what other people are getting. That's how I translate that quote. Because you don't say the market's the market if you're Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes. You go in there and you say, I've done this, 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 and this. Pay me what I'm worth.
Yep.
Tua's going to go in there and say, look at these guys who aren't very good and see what they're getting paid. I want to be paid like them. That's not a very good way to operate. That's not showing a lot of faith in yourself. So I really didn't like that quote either.
For those who are just jumping in, again, talking about Trevor Lawrence and jumping on Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, obviously on Twitter as well, wherever you're taking the show in. Thank you guys. Appreciate you hanging out with us. It's day 2 of Grip It and Rip It. Justin Kinner and Jacob Tissett.
Rolls off the tongue.
I mean, the ring. I can't get over the ring.
It's incredible.
I can't. I'm learning some stuff. That's pretty damn cool. National champion Jacob Tissett. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence, highest paid quarterback in the NFL, $55 million a year, right up there with Burrow. I think there's some slightly more money.
Burrow had more guaranteed.
Yeah, and this, that, and the other. While we're on quarterbacks, before we transition out of this, I do got to say this. So you guys did the worst contract conversation earlier.
Yes.
Take fandom out of it. I'm here to tell you, let me ask you, as a Bengals fan, if Russell Wilson was the Cleveland Browns quarterback and Deshaun Watson was Denver's quarterback and the same situations played out the way they did, Denver sending Deshaun to Pittsburgh and then Russell Wilson still in Cleveland despite not living up to the hype the last couple of years, would you still say that Deshaun is the worst contract in sports history?
We had Russ's ranked above Deshaun's today.
You did?
Yeah, Deshaun fell at I think 6 or 7 for us today.
Oh.
Yeah, Russ was.
Damn, I came in hot, ready to fight. I was rolling the sleeves up, getting the towel all ready to go.
I think Russell Wilson's distantly a worse contract than Deshaun.
Thank you. That's all I needed to hear. I didn't get to hear all of it. Got a phone call in the middle. It was listening on the way, and I'm like, well, I could see. Elliott cracks me up, dude. If you want to just get him seething, just bring up Deshaun.
There's a lot of things you can get up to.
He's like one of the funniest people I know. His whole face just changes.
Yeah.
Like it just totally just ruins his entire existence, that name being brought up.
He gets upset.
Yeah. But I was like, so a lot of when that gets thrown out by Deshaun, the worst contract, I'm not saying it's good, but the jury is still, maybe that's not the right direction to go. Juries have done real. He's handled juries well. To be actually,
to be fair.
Well, maybe he technically hasn't got
right. Yeah, he pays him off before that.
So maybe the jury's still looking for. I don't know how you want to word it. I think that the story isn't over yet for the Deshaun contract to me.
I think the people that say that that's the worst contract in sports, at least I hope, they don't mean the money. The money-wise is not necessarily why I think that's the worst contract in sports. It's the fully guaranteed aspect and how it's changed the way contracts are paid in the league right now. I mean, everyone's demanding higher percentage of guarantees just because of that contract. So I think that's more why it's viewed in such a negative light, just because it changed the rest of the sport. Not necessarily as much the money that as Russell Wilson's is purely. I mean, they're paying him $45 million to play for someone else this year.
But I've always asked this too. Like, why do you as fans care? Like, how does that impact you? Like, it's not your money. You're not spending the money.
Cap space.
But cap space. But like at the same time, poor owners, because the Browns have an owner to do it. Atlanta wasn't willing to go fully guaranteed, but they were within $10 million of the guaranteed number he was asking for, which is ultimately what Burrow got. Burrow's guarantee is $10 million less or whatever than Watson's. So I'm like, so are we really saying? I mean, the difference between the worst contract because of fully guaranteed money. So the difference between the worst contract in the eyes of some in the history of sports and Joe Burrow's contract, $10 million less fully guaranteed, $10 million. That's the number. That's the difference between a great contract and the worst contract in the history of sports, according to some. That was always my eye-rolling pushback. As far
I don't think it's necessarily the dollar amount as it is the percentage amount. I mean, Deshaun Watson got 100% of his contract guaranteed. Joe Burrow got 220 out of 275. So, can't do math on air. Don't want to do that, but. Yeah, I mean, it's a little different. I think it's just because people want the more guarantees now. We haven't seen anyone get back up to that 100% guaranteed number, but those numbers, that percentage keeps creeping up every major contract. I mean, Justin Jefferson just got more guaranteed money than a receiver's ever gotten. So it's affecting every position, and I think it just hurts negotiation strategies. I mean, because you used to be able to just put the signing bonus in the front with the guaranteed money, and then they can play the rest of their contract, and if they get hurt or whatever, they're not guaranteed that back half. But now you have to plan stuff out a little bit more because people want these much higher guarantees, and that is just goes back to because of Deshaun.
Yeah, I see Colton Melman in the chat on YouTube, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. If jump in there. Only the Browns are dumb enough to hand that contract out. But here's the deal: the Browns, if you give the $40 million to Baker Mayfield, dumbest franchise in sports, dude. Of course, it's typical Cleveland. The Browns is the Browns, giving Baker Mayfield $40 million. Oh yeah, dumbest franchise in history. Okay. Let's just be clear. Y'all just hate Cleveland, and you're supposed to, because I hate your team too. So it's okay. Like, I think your team's ridiculous as well. So it's totally fine. With that being said, nothing that Cleveland would have done was going to make guys like my guy Colton here and others. It was never going to appeal? Was there a decision that they would have made that you would have been like, great job?
Maybe it's trading for top 5 quarterback in the league, Deshaun Watson.
Great job. What's that?
Maybe the move that they could make that people should be happy about is trading for a quarterback who was top 5 or so in the league at the time. I mean, obviously it hasn't panned out that great in Cleveland, and maybe you could have forecasted some of that with what was going on at the time. But when Deshaun Watson was traded to Cleveland, he was a bona fide top 10 quarterback in the league, probably top 5. In 2020, he led the league in yards and completion percentage. He was a superstar. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think the decision is necessarily as bad as it's been played out to be. It's revisionist history, with him not playing well, and he still has time to rectify that a little bit.
It's not even about playing well. He just needs to play. He just needs to play. What was this?
He needs to play mid-level.
Okay. I didn't know if this was I didn't know if this. We're still learning. I didn't know. I didn't know.
He needs to be 60% or so of what he was in Houston for that contract to not look like a bad contract whatsoever. I mean, he's down to the 8th or 9th highest paid quarterback in the league now, and we know at his ceiling he can easily be that. So it's not like he's being paid this gaudy number in the top 2 or 3 of the league anymore.
So here's the other deal too. If it's the worst deal because the fully guaranteed, it has not been a bad deal for Cleveland.
Right.
Like, to say that if Joe Burrow has another season where he's out for 50% of the season, are you Bengals fans going to say, man, that was a bad contract? Joe Burrow, I mean, we never know when he's going to be out there. Would you say that's a bad you would just say, no, by golly, bad luck. Man, I tell you what, the NFL with their coin flips, they're out to get our guy. Oh, by golly, Joey B. Man, he's playing the piano. Oh,
I don't like your Bengals fan voice.
Huh?
Your Bengals fan voice is not my favorite.
I'm going to have to bring this with me. I got to get permission. But we have what was called, we had this prop for a show we did on another station in our building. And it was a mic that when you hit the button, it changes your voice.
Oh, boy.
So I started calling it the hater mic. So when anyone, because we would do the show live on Facebook and YouTube. And anytime Bengals fans came at me, they still do. But I would read their comments using the hater mic.
Nice.
And so I need the hater mic. Then I don't have to do the, oh, my golly stuff. I could just talk it. So the hater mic, I might have to bring it over.
I like that.
To this show. I don't know why I almost called it Click It and Ticket. Why the hell did I think that the
maybe we can
grip it and rip it, click it and ticket.
Maybe we can get an ad with the Highway Association and we're just ready to roll.
Man. So nonetheless, did Kev get fired? No, Kev's not fired. In fact, it's quite the opposite. He just got back from Puerto Rico.
He's living the life.
He's the opposite of fired. He's paid very well because he can go to Puerto Rico. No Kinner and Kev show this week. There's been a lot of confusion. Okay, I took on another show. Shout out to Trace. Shout out to Jacob. Shout out to all the guys here at Chatterbox. But I added another show to my schedule now, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And that's where not click it and ticket and all that. You click it or ticket, whatever the hell it is. Grip it and rip it.
Yes.
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with Kinner and Tissot. There you go. Grip it and rip it with Kinner and Tissot. So the Kinner and Kev show. So I'll be doing this every Monday, Wednesday, Friday with Jacob. Him and I doing this show, and then I'll be here in Hamilton and then getting back to Dayton with Kevin to do the show. He's just off this week. We're getting this show off the ground, so there was no show this week, but the show comes back on Monday. So then I'll be running around like a chicken with my head cut off, doing all the stuff I do. People actually think, too, your show's from 3 to 5, 3 to 6. You just show up at 2:30. No, I'm the program director. I do sales. I have to do everything. So
you're hardworking, man.
No, I don't need no sympathy or nothing. No, I just don't like when people think. I just want to make that clear. All right, I'm not just sitting at home doing nothing. All right, my wrists work just fine. I have full mobility. I'm good. I'm not on the IL. Okay, I'm ready to rock. Just shade for no reason, catching strays as far as that goes. But Quiplash, RIP. So have you been a part of the Quiplash crew?
Oh, of course.
So I've only been a part of it once because I pissed people off because I stopped in here to do my show and didn't realize what Quiplash was. I like the game.
It's fun.
But do you realize that Jacob ruined it, guys? Jacob and his show from noon to 2 every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Can you believe that? Damn it, Jacob.
I think the death of Quiplash might be greatly over-exaggerated. Box lunch is still a thing on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I think we can mix it in there.
I don't know why people keep ignoring you guys on that. I see on social media, every time someone says all this stuff, everyone quickly says, no, it's just being reworked.
Yeah.
It'll be updated.
Just a slight schedule change. You're still getting your stuff.
I don't know if you saw this. Are you a hockey guy?
I am.
I'm not. But like, do you like when I say you're a hockey guy? You watching?
Oh yeah, I watch most of the playoff games.
Well, ESPN. Did you see the desk that the ESPN crew was using? Okay.
Tucked in the rafters of that arena, Rogers' place.
Absolutely. So ESPN, according to Awful Announcing on Twitter, ESPN's cheap desk irritates fans during Stanley Cup final broadcast.
I mean, Mark Messier was sitting on PK Subban's lap, so it wasn't great optics. But that's an old arena up there with seats all the way to the top. So I'll cut him some slack, but ESPN main show, you got to expect a little bit better than that.
Can I say this? It's hockey. It's okay.
That's fair.
Maybe people mad ESPN didn't have hockey. They're like, fine, we'll throw you a bone, we'll give you hockey. You want a desk too? All right, now this is like getting a little out of hand. First of all, it is kind of wild. I see the attention to detail that you guys put, like with what goes in front of the camera and stuff. I would expect a little more out of ESPN to not throw out some desk that's not even long enough to cover the laps of the full panel.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, I get that too. But at the same time, this is another example of social media fake outrage. Like,
that's fair.
It's fake out. Like, stop it. Did it ruin your viewership experience? It did not. It's like the people that complained about ESPN's halftime coverage of the NBA Finals. I'm like, half y'all people didn't even know it was bad until you read that it was bad. The half time's for you to go use the bathroom anyways.
Right.
Who cares?
Don't watch.
And I'm not defending ESPN here, but they would put more effort probably into that halftime show if the numbers showed that a lot of people, like, they know. They like, one thing I learned about ESPN, so there was a time I went to New York with Bobby Carpenter. He was working with ESPN at the time doing Get Up, okay? So I was in New York at the time. I got to go sit in on Get Up and just kind of watch how everything operated. But, like, they are literally topic by topic monitoring what is working and what's not. People that sit there and say, man, the ESPN would be a lot better if they, well, you could fill in the blank. There's a lot of things y'all say about how ESPN could be better. But one of the things is I hate that they talk so much Dallas Cowboys. You know why they talk so much Dallas Cowboys? Because of you guys. Now, you may not particularly care about the Dallas Cowboys, but there are enough yous out there that they're doing that for.
Right.
How come they don't talk about Joe Burrow and the Bengals? He plays piano now. There's not enough people that care about Joe Burrow's piano playing experience. So if there were more Jacobs in the world, all right, Joe Burrow playing the piano would be a lot higher on the media list than the Inquirer or the Athletic or whatever else the guys are doing out there. Like, let's just be clear. So, anyways, I learned that. So everything that they do is based on what the numbers are telling them in lifetime. And what they have seen is enough data that at halftime, people are checking out. You go use the bathroom. You go get a sandwich. You put the kids to bed. You do whatever. And you come back, start of the second half. So they're not, like, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, I'm not defending them, but these networks, they know what they're doing.
They're professionals.
They know what. I don't really like the panel, to be honest. I think they could do a better job with the panel because TNT just, I mean, they hammer them. I mean, it's ridiculous, like how good TNT's inside the NBA thing is.
Right.
But, like,
yeah.
I not defending ESPN, just letting you guys know. Stop fake outrage, man. The social media fake outrage just drives me nuts. You guys didn't even watch hockey, and then you're mad about the desk.
How many people complaining on Twitter didn't even watch the game? Yeah. They just saw screenshots of the desk on Twitter.
So
I would say 80% probably.
Exactly. By the way, hockey's that one sport I try so hard to get into. I just can't.
I never had a team. Obviously, Cincinnati doesn't have one. I never latched on to Columbus because they are pretty bad. But
the buzz that year that they made the playoffs, 5-6 years ago? They beat Boston.
Yeah.
That was cool.
It was exciting.
I found myself watching it, and I'm also one of those, like, I don't respect hosts who they'll do the hockey stuff, like, oh, we got to talk hockey, because I just acknowledge I'm not going to BS you.
Right.
I don't know hockey. So why don't you talk hockey? I would be disrespecting you trying to talk hockey, as far as that's concerned. So, but, like, I could feel the energy of the Blue Jackets that year. I could feel it in Dayton. Like,
sure.
It felt cool. And then it's like, then they blow it all up and all this stuff and, whatever. But the bottom line is I felt it. I would love to get into hockey. That's the one. Like, what's that one sport what's the sport that you're trying to get into? You just can't.
It's always been hockey for me. And then this year, it's the first year I've really watched, like, almost every playoff game. Like, I really do like it. And I'm starting to recognize guys on other teams and see people playing through and know the good players, know the players who struggle. So it's cool once you get a little bit of a grasp of everything that's going on around you. Did you see the Utah Hockey Club release their new jerseys and name and everything?
Utah's getting a hockey team?
The Utah Hockey Club.
That's
they're
what
going
they're
with
just called, the hockey
they're
club?
going with the football team moniker Washington tried a couple years ago. It's going to be put up to a fan vote, and they're going to change the name within the next 2 seasons to whatever the fans want it to be. Yetis is the current leader right now, which I like. I think it's fun. Their jerseys are black and light blue. Good color scheme. I think it's fun. They moved the Arizona Coyotes there. So the death of the Coyotes, the life of the hockey club.
Hockey club. I mean, you see the Commanders, there's a lot of stink about going back to the Redskins. Am I allowed to say that?
I don't think so.
Am I going to be canceled?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, it's,
you know,
there's Florida State Seminoles still exist, Atlanta Braves still exist. It's a lot of outrage. I'll switch that camera back.
Oh, man. Yeah, you can tell it's Friday. This is how, it's just kind of loosey-goosey right now, but nonetheless. Yeah, so you said the club?
The Utah Hockey Club is the name they're rocking with to start, but that's not permanent. They're changing it to it after a fan vote. The colors and jerseys, I believe, are permanent, or at least for the next few years or so.
Interesting. What about the sport that you wish you can get into, and you try but you can't? Soccer might be another one. I need to get to an FC Cincinnati game. I've heard that the atmosphere for that is just pretty damn wild.
I've heard great things.
You never been either?
No, and I won't. I won't go.
I'm going to their stadium. Kenny Chesney's going to be there.
I would go to that.
At the end of the month. You know, he brings in, sand, so you're actually, on the beach.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm going to that here in a couple weeks.
That's awesome. Yeah, I said I'll never go to FC Cincinnati because I think I would love it too much. And I've kind of stamped my brand as being the FC Cincinnati hater. So I can't go and just all of a sudden be a big-time fan. So I think I'm just going to stay away and recuse myself so I don't fall in love. That's my plan.
You guys can't give Casey a fellow soccer fan tag team partner?
He would love one. He would love one.
Is he on an island?
I think Jimmy's going to a game later this month. So Casey's trying to get him on board, but Elliot and I are so far out. Casey's on his own there, I think.
Poor Casey, the MVP. The real MVP of all the. But I feel bad because you guys throw him bones. You do the whole when Elliot does his updates and you throw in some FC Cincinnati love in there.
Yeah.
And then when he gets into it, you guys just make fun of him. It's the worst thing. I feel so bad for him. I want to put the Sarah McLachlan song in the background. That's how bad I feel for Casey when y'all just pick on him. All right, I'm just saying.
It's
if
a fun
I'm him,
bit.
I forget to turn your mics up. If I'm him, I forget to pan the camera over to you. Casey has way more power than he actually thinks he has.
Oh, absolutely. He's in charge of everything. He lets us think we're in control sometimes, but it's always him. He's always pulling the strings.
Nonetheless, give him some soccer love. A little FC Cincinnati love as far as that goes. But all right, what else do we have coming? I know we have. So what time? Oh, it's 1:11. We have a lot of time. We have plenty of time. I thought we were running out of time for all the stuff I had in here, but nonetheless, what?
No, we're doing good.
Oh,
we're doing good on time.
Okay, but yeah, soccer, that would be the one for me, I guess. Soccer, hockey. Soccer, I think I would try a little bit harder, mainly because there's soccer here.
That's fair.
If there was hockey here, I would try, but I guess we carry the Blue Jackets in Dayton, and I've only been to one Blue Jackets game.
Got to get up to one of those then. You could just become a Blue Jackets fan.
I wear Blue Jackets stuff all the time because they always send us stuff.
There you go.
Everyone just thinks I'm a Blue Jackets fan. I'm like, no, it's radio. If it's free, it's for me. That's how you roll. That's how you roll. So, all right, college football. I thought On3 put this out, and we're gonna get better. We're gonna learn how to share the graphics, all that stuff. We'll add to this stuff as we go. Jacob, who man of many hats, even though he doesn't wear a hat, because look at that beautiful head of hair over there. Look at that. Look at that.
Maybe I work a hat in sometime soon.
So, On3 put out a couple graphics, okay, and it was highlighting the. We talk so much about the transfer portal, and I get a little tired of talking about it a little bit, but it's interesting when you see a graphic how it kind of puts it all into perspective a little bit, and On3 put out this graphic of the most transfers out during the 23-24 college football season, or off season, however you want to word it. To no surprise, Colorado had the most players transfer out of the program at 44. 44 players transferred out. All right, continue going down the list. Doesn't surprise me. Alabama comes in at number 4. They had 35 players transfer out. Now a coaching change there. All right, so that would do it. That makes a lot of sense. But a lot of teams on this list, like USC, I don't know why. It doesn't surprise me that Indiana is number 2. Doesn't surprise me that Michigan State's number 36. Alabama, we know coaching change. That's going to happen, right? Indiana, Michigan State, they're just trying to get it right. They're just trying to figure it out.
Coaching change at Michigan State as well.
So it's not a surprise there. But USC should be more stable.
I agree.
USC should be, that train should be on the tracks a lot smoother than what it actually is at this point, because the fact that they had 30 players transfer out, now there's a million reasons why these guys transfer in and out, this, that, and the other. I do find it very interesting that USC is on this list when you have Lincoln Riley. When you are USC, when it's your first year in the Big Ten, they should have been more stable heading in. And the fact that they are not, I mean, they're not getting enough hate. I'm tired of hearing about USC coming into the Big Ten. What a great addition. I don't think that they're talked about enough as a team that should be held a little bit more accountable for not being as buttoned up as what they are. Lincoln Riley has had some amazing talent at USC. I don't know how you don't really have anything to show for Caleb Williams. You don't have anything? You don't have anything to show for Caleb? It's going to look even worse if Caleb Williams goes on to do amazing things for the Bears as he's anticipated to do. It's going to make USC look even worse. Because LSU, they're like a roller coaster type of program, right? Like, you know, they're a healthy program. They are a stable program. Now, you can make fun of them and say, you know, this, that, and the other. But Les Miles, they win a national championship.
Right.
All right. Nick Saban, they win a national championship. He leaves. Here comes in Les Miles. They win a national championship. He leaves. Ed Orgeron comes in. They win a national championship. Now you have that's a healthy program. They could win national championships. You have one of the, arguably in my eyes, one of the best head coaches in all of college football, and you had a generational talent at quarterback, and you have nothing to show for it. So with LSU, you had Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow wins you a national championship. And then he goes on to be the Heisman winner. Then he goes on to be the number 1 overall pick. And then he goes on to lead his team to a Super Bowl in the first 3 years that he's there, or at least play, you know, whatever. Top 2 quarterback, top 3 quarterback in the NFL, depending on who you talk to, this, that, and the other. Caleb Williams, but again, look at where he played. You know, grew a lot, learned a lot at Ohio State, plays at LSU, kills it with the Bengals, doing great in the NFL. If this guy goes on to kill it in the NFL and USC has nothing to show for it, that's going to make Lincoln Riley look even worse. Now, you could say, well, there's a lot of quarterbacks that come from smaller schools, and those schools don't have anything to show for it either, but that's my point. Those are smaller schools.
Right.
They have less resources. They're not expected to do much. But when you're USC and you have all the NFL talent on both sides of the ball, you have Lincoln Riley, which is supposed to be this offensive aficionado, this, that, and the other, you have nothing to show for it. You have a bad bowl loss against Tulane. Like, what do you have to show for the Caleb Williams era? And then I was very surprised, Jacob, to see that USC, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, they had the 10th most players leave their program. No coaching change.
Right. Going
to the Big Ten. This, that, the, I'm very surprised. 30 players left the program heading into the Big Ten. That's wild to me. Lincoln Riley, his seat's not hot, but, man, he's not living up to expectations. He's like the Trevor Lawrence of head coaches in college football.
His seat might not be hot, but I think it's certainly warming up. At some point at USC, with that kind of contract that they're paying him, you have to win games. 8-4 is not enough. I know they love the Heisman and the big name transfers they're getting, and that's all cool and everything, but at some point you have to win games, and Lincoln Riley still hasn't done that. I would push back a little bit on you saying he's one of the best head coaches in college football. I think he's the best offensive coordinator in college football, but he's never had a defense in the top 50 as a head coach. And they lost their defensive coordinator, I guess fired their defensive coordinator this year, and hired the defensive coordinator from UCLA, who is known for their vaunted defense. So I don't really know what he's trying to do. They bring in Bear Alexander from Georgia, one of the best defensive lineman transfers we've ever seen, and he barely sees the field. They get Corey Foreman, the number 1 edge rusher transfer in 2021. He doesn't even play as a junior. So I don't really know what their system is, how they're not finding the way to use this top talent they're getting, because the issue when he first got there and the issue he faced at Oklahoma is they couldn't recruit top defenders. They could get the 5-star receivers, running backs, and quarterbacks to come because everyone wants to play for Lincoln Riley. Everyone wanted to play for Oklahoma. Everyone wanted to play for USC. But none of those defensive players would come over because they didn't feel like they had the position coaches, the coordinators, or the system that the other top schools had to help them succeed and get to the next level. Well, he finally got some of those big names, and most of them either were busts or never even played or transferred out now. I mean, a lot of that 30 that you said is defensive players who didn't even get a shake to play, and they're some of the top-rated recruits that were on the entire roster. So I don't really understand what's going on defensively with Lincoln Riley. This has been a problem long before USC. It was a problem at Oklahoma. Unless he changes that, I don't really think we're going to see anything different out of USC long-term.
That's why I'm surprised that Lincoln Riley has never bit on the NFL opportunity.
Right.
Like,
I thought
feel
the
like
Cowboys
I did too. I think his brand's taken a hit. I think his brand, like every year you go back. I mean, 8-5 last year. Mark Fetters, he says USC 8-5 last year. LOL. 8-5 is not elite. I agree, Mark.
It's an elite brand, though.
Elite brand, but that brand took a hit for more than a decade, and then it felt like the brand was back a little. But at the same time, Lincoln Riley, I might agree with the people who say he might be the most overrated, one of the most overrated coaches in college football.
I certainly think so.
But the thing is, like, so I've always compared to like Ryan Day and David Shaw. What up? So David Shaw, no Kenner and Kev show this week. We're back next week. Appreciate you. Glad that you're hanging out with us on the Chatterbox side real quick. But Shaw says Lincoln Riley never had a defense at Oklahoma, and has continued that tradition like no other of having horrid defenses at USC. So, being a Buckeye fan, I know, Jacob, you're a Buckeye fan too, but the parallels of Ryan Day and Lincoln Riley are very similar. Like they're the way the trajectory of both their careers, the way they both replaced legendary head coaches at their respective schools. Lincoln Riley, the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma, and then replaces Stoops and goes on to do great things and lead these great offenses in Oklahoma. Never missed a beat, right? And it's like, man, that's tough to do. Replacing a legend is not easy to do. And Lincoln Riley made it look easy initially at Oklahoma and just continued to have guys win Heismans and one of the most explosive offenses in college football. Ryan Day did the same thing. Ryan Day replaces a legend and friend of Chatterbox Sports, all right, Mr. Urban Meyer. So he replaces Urban Meyer. And then all of a sudden, boom, just like that, now you have quarterbacks being drafted in the first round. You're wide receiver you have that being explosive offenses. But then you start to realize, oh, crap. We hired them because of what they did really, really well. And we do those things really, really well. But the problem is we don't do anything else really, really well. Ryan Day at Ohio State, it sounds like they're trying to get it buttoned up, but they have gotten worse. I mean, they have been bad defensively every year since – they've gotten worse every year since he's taken over. Now, statistically better last year. I get that. But I'm not a big believer. I'm not – Jacob, I don't know about you. I'm not big on stats in college football because – you play so many bad teams, you beef up your numbers, and then you get exposed when you play good teams. And we kind of saw that, against Michigan and against even Missouri. Don't get me started, even without some of their top guys. But I say all of this because Ryan Day has done his job. Elite offense at Ohio State. Lincoln Riley has done his job. Elite offense at Oklahoma, elite offense at USC. But the problem is, defensively, they just can't seem to figure it out. The parallels between those two, they're almost pretty much the same exact coach, except Ryan Day seems to be in the driver's seat as far as perception's concerned, but let's not act like it's always been that way because everyone wanted his ass canned back in November. So we'll see. And even December when they even lost at the bowl game, I should say. So even in January, not too long ago. But very weird how both of those two coaches are pretty much the same coach, but one's being propped up a lot more at Ohio State right now than what Lincoln Riley is at USC.
In 7 years, Lincoln Riley's 74-48 as a head coach, and since 2019 when Ryan Day took over, I guess that'd be 4 years, he's 56-8, 5 seasons. 56-8 in his 5 seasons. So, yeah, it would just take one subpar season at Ohio State for him to have the exact same record in the next 2 years. So, very, very similar, both offensive-minded, like you said, and both have consistently had dominant offenses. I mean, Ryan Day's never missed a beat offensively. And I think that's kind of the goal of him stepping away from play calling and bringing in a guy like Chip Kelly. It's so he can focus on that other side of the ball instead of pouring all of his resources into the offense like I guess he has been for the last 4 seasons. I guess we'll see if that makes a difference or not, but it's different for a guy like Lincoln Riley whose entire pitch, his entire brand is that he's the play caller and he's the best play caller there is. If he steps away and is the GM, CEO, head coach role that we all talk about in sports now, does he lose his recruiting pull? Does he lose the reason people want to play for USC? I guess you still have that name that you could say, hey, come be a Trojan, come play in the Coliseum. You see, Reggie Bush got his Heisman back. You can get another one with him and all that good stuff. But if Lincoln Riley's not calling plays, what is Lincoln Riley? Because he doesn't really do anything else well.
Yeah, and this comes down to, this is why, and you see this in the NFL, offensive coordinators, whether they're ready or not. I mean, this is a great example. Your Cincinnati Bengals. Now, I'm more of a Zach Taylor guy than you probably would think, okay? Zach Taylor is one of the few coaches I know that when the team plays well, it's not because of him, but when the team plays bad, it's all because of him. It drives me nuts when it comes to the Cincinnati Bengals fan base with how they handle Zach Taylor. But the bottom line is Zach Taylor was not ready to be a head coach. Had no business being a head coach. But there was that time where anyone that shared an elevator with Sean McVay got hired as a head coach because, man, anyone that has worked with Sean McVay, they know the secret sauce to dominant offenses in the NFL. So NFL offensive coordinators are being hired left and right as head coaches. And hell, Zach Taylor wasn't even an offensive coordinator. He was a quarterback's coach. All right, but because he was in the system with the Rams, because he had worked with Sean McVay, boom, got to make him the head coach. Okay, and can't rip the Bengals for doing it because it's a copycat league, and that's what every team in the NFL was doing. But college football and the NFL very similar. If you're a good offensive coordinator, you're the front and center. You are the head candidate to be a head coach in the NFL or college football. As long as you're an offensive coordinator that's leading a great offense. So that's kind of the nature of it right now. But you're also getting some guys that probably aren't qualified to be head coaches. But Lincoln Riley, I guess he's qualified to be a head coach. Ryan Day is qualified to be a head coach. But I still think there's something missing with both. Now, Ryan Day can erase a lot of that criticism if they go on to win a national championship this year. Lincoln Riley, they will not be good this year. They're not going to win the Big Ten. They're not. They might be. Are they a playoff team, do you think? I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be a USC aficionado. But no one's propping them up. No one's giving them love this offseason.
I mean, that quarterback that's taking over for Caleb Williams, Miller Moss, I believe is his name. Miller's definitely his first name. I think his last name is Moss. He had a great bowl game, 5 touchdowns in his bowl game. Something exciting, I guess, but I don't think the quarterback really moves the needle for me. Lincoln Riley always figures it out at the quarterback position. That's not a question about what USC is going to do. It's can he play to a level that gets them to, I guess, 8-4, because that's where USC fans seem to be happy now. The one thing I would say is the difference between a lot of people in the chat are saying it's the same thing with Ryan Day and Lincoln Riley. If Ryan Day stops calling plays, what is he? Well, I think the difference is that Ryan Day has proven to be an elite staff builder. He brings in position coaches and coordinators that are second to none. Jeff Hafley, he hires him as the secondary coach. He's the DC for 1 year, takes the head coaching job at Boston College. Obviously, that didn't work out for him at Boston College, but he proved that he was an elite defensive coordinator. You bring in Jim Knowles from Oklahoma State, Oklahoma State to be the defensive coordinator. He's the best defensive coordinator in college football. You go get Chip Kelly to be your OC. He's probably the best offensive coordinator in college football, at least the most recognizable name at a coordinator position in college football. You have guys like Brian Hartline and Larry Johnson at position coaches who are second to none at their position. And you dominate recruiting every year. Your top 3, your top 5, where USC's in the 15s and 20s. So Ryan Day does so much outside of play calling for Ohio State and for that program that I don't really think that is quite as comparable. But it is a big change for a guy who was an offensive coordinator and a quarterback's coach to go to not calling plays anymore. He's going to have to figure out how to step back and not try to tinker with everything Chip Kelly's doing, which I think is going to be unique, and we'll see how he handles that. But he provides so much more than Lincoln Riley does outside of the offensive coaching aspect that I don't really think that's a fair comparison.
It is interesting, even that, like Mark Fetters being a big Buckeye guy in the chat. A lot of Buckeye fans, they're not over Ryan Day, but we're entering a season where it's put up or shut up.
Absolutely.
And it's national championship or shut up. I mean, is there a scenario that does not involve hoisting a trophy at the end of the year that will appease Buckeye fans?
No.
See,
no.
I
do think it's kind of weird that a lot of people, not weird, I guess it's fair, because this roster is insane and the coaching staff is insane, but everyone's saying it's national championship or bust for Ohio State. It's been national championship or bust for Ohio State my entire life. We went 11-1 and won the Rose Bowl, and you would have thought we missed a bowl game. Everyone thought Ryan Day should be fired then, and they were ready to, throw C.J. Stroud out of town for throwing for 500 yards in Pasadena. Just because we didn't make the playoff, we lost one game that season. It's always national championship or bust. It just seems like the national media has now hopped on the boat of Ohio State fans with that opinion.
So I also, and this is not a topic I planned for today, but what the hell, we're here, might as well. I think in a 12-team playoff, it is very difficult to put a championship or bust label on anybody. I think that you
never do it in college basketball.
We don't. Me and Kev have had this discussion before on the Kidder and Kev show in Dayton about this very same topic. In college basketball, it's a perfect setup because there's banners hung for Elite Eights. Elite Eight, you didn't win a championship, but man, you got to a level that's very difficult to get to. We got to let the 12-team college football breathe, but I'm wondering what level of the 12-team college football playoff do you have to get to for it to be one of those successful seasons? And you could almost argue in the 14 playoff it was fair to say championship or bust, but I did feel like just getting to the championship game was one of those, all right, we had a good year.
Well, and even for teams like Cincinnati, they have it hung up in Nippert Arena. That's college football playoff appearance with whatever year that was. Like making the playoff, making that 4-team was a massive deal for a lot of these teams. So it's going to have to change a little bit. Obviously, for teams like Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, making the 12-team playoff is simply not going to cut it. That's not enough to be a top 12 team in the country. Like top 4 was. Obviously, you want to win a national championship, but if you make the playoff, it's a successful season, at least to a degree. You've done your job, except for that year Ohio State got shut out by Clemson. That was the only one I didn't really think was successful.
Buckeye fans got mad at me because I did the OH 31-0.
Yeah,
they love that.
That's brutal. That's brutal.
They love that.
But, I think it's got to be if you win a couple games or so. I think my question is going to be what happens when an Ohio State or an Alabama, one of those big names, is 9-3 going into the playoff. They're the 10 or 11 seed. And you upset the higher seed who's actually a worse team. How do fans react to something like that? Because we've never really seen that before. If you get to the playoff, sure, you have situations like TCU against Georgia in the national championship where one team's clearly better, but TCU still won a game to get there. They proved they belonged. What happens when that first-round game people don't think either team belongs? People don't think either team are playoff eligible, and then
that's a good point.
You're discounting someone getting to the Elite Eight because they were the 12 or however it shakes out. But I think we're going to have a couple of years of really, really bad narratives around college football before people get comfortable with the 12-team playoff.
So it's not fair to bring up Michigan losing to TCU. It's not their fault. Listen, they had set up a cheating schedule for that year, and they did not include TCU in their game planning. Like, Jake, you got to stop blaming Michigan for losing. They didn't have time to cheat to go steal their signs that year.
Right. They didn't think TCU was going to sneak in. They sent their recruits they sent their scouts to Tennessee and South Carolina instead. It's really a shame. It's really a shame.
I mean, what could have been for Jim Harbaugh, back-to-back national championships, if he would have just been prepared in his cheating schedule, when it comes to that TCU, whatever the hell they are. What's TCU? Are they the Horny Frogs? What are they?
Horned Frogs.
Yeah, the Horny Frogs, yeah.
Is it this? Is it these
what
two?
What the hell
or
is that?
these
You
two?
throwing flashing gang signs
It's one of these two. They have like a Texas. Texas, obviously this. It's either this or this.
What is happening?
For Horned Frogs, but I'm not sure. We're not on the radio. We can do visuals.
Exactly. You can do this one right here.
I think so. And you're on camera.
It was?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good. Good stuff. Very professional of me, nonetheless. But let's see. Shaw's taking – so Shaw will be introduced more so throughout the football season. That's when he heats up. But he's a big Michigan guy.
Love it.
We
take everyone that wants to watch the show.
Big Michigan fan. Now, him and I, we butt heads.
That's good.
Screaming matches. Now, here we don't have a phone, but I've been known to hang up on him quite a few times.
And maybe me and Shaw are going to have to acquaint ourselves because, I don't know, he sees this Alabama polo right here. He might think I'm not a Buckeye fan, but I have bad news for you.
Now, Shaw, I don't know how much you know about this, but Shaw, this is national champion Jacob right here, okay? This is, let's just be clear right now. This is a national champion that I'm sitting across from.
That's true. It's true.
I'm just saying. So so by the way, what championship was it?
2020 when Alabama beat Ohio State.
Oh, traitor.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I always say it's the biggest win-win of my life. Either my favorite team wins or I get a ring.
And you got the ring.
I did.
You got the ring. Tissot is a national champion, an SEC, a multi-time SEC champion.
3 out of 4. Got close.
Let me ask
you. Got close to the clean sweep.
Did you any interaction with Nick Saban, or were you just
were you
guys just peasants to
just
him?
In passing, he gave me a couple thank yous for holding the door, which was always nice.
You held the door for Nick Saban. You don't hold the door open for me when I walked in.
Well,
when we leave, I need
when
you to hold the door open
7 national
for me.
championships, I'll start holding the door.
No, when we leave, I need you to hold the door open for me because I could say, never had someone that's held the door open for Nick Saban hold it open for me before.
No problem. I got that taken care of. I got you.
Mark Fetter's asking, is the Bama run over?
I think it's very dependent on what you mean by the Bama run. Bama's not going to win 7 national championships in a 13, 16-year spread ever again. That's just not going to happen. It's not feasible in the new world of college football. much less with a coach not like Nick Saban. I love Kalen DeBoer. I think DeBoer was a phenomenal hire. He's proven that he can win games. That's not going to be in question. It was the question of whether he can recruit the South, and he's gotten down there and dominated the recruiting trail, re-recruiting the top 3 players in the state of Alabama to come to the university. So he's proven that he's done a good job there, and he's been able to keep a lot of the, obviously losing guys like Caleb Downs and Isaiah Bond hurts, but he was able to keep most of the core of that roster there in town, and he can build around it. And I think Jalen Milroe is going to take a massive step next year and be one of the most exciting players in college football. So I don't think Alabama's going anywhere soon, but the days of them making the national championship every single year, I think those days are over. But you have to move your expectations for the new era of college football.
Quick pause in that. Another goofy media coverage of your quarterback, Joe Burrow. Like your obsession with him.
Okay.
Everything he does.
Let's hear it.
Everything he does is just amazing, right? Listen to this article. And by the way, I am walking the line because I know these Bengals reporters, so I'm going to piss them off, but I don't care. Like, I love these guys. They do a great job. They do this stuff because of people like my guy Jake over here, national champion Jake. Anything Joe Burrow does, you guys drool over.
For sure.
Just absolutely obsessed over. And because of that, you get articles like this one. The Bengals wrap up, and this is James. Shout out to James Rapine. I really do like James. This is not a shot at James Rapine, even though it is a very sarcastic tone in my voice. I'm more so making fun of the fans than anything else. James is doing his job. He knows that you guys just hang on every little thing that this quarterback with the bad wrist does, okay? So this is an all Bengals, Sports Illustrated, this, that, and the other. So here's the article, Jake. Not very long, but you guys very entertained by this stuff. You dialed in?
I'm dialed in.
I'm going to have one of these every day because there were times before this show I would scream when I'd come across articles like this. Not at the reporters, but like, you guys. Like, it's wild. Like,
I'm the one reading them.
So, the Bengals wrap up minicamp on Thursday with a morning practice. Star quarterback Joe Burrow has been a full participant this week after missing part of OTAs last week as he continues to recover from wrist surgery. That's nothing wrong with that, right? Cool. So, this is where it gets good. This is where you guys wet your pants with laughter and excitement and happiness, okay? Burrow went from quarterback to head official during 7-on-7 drills during Wednesday's practice. Guys, classic Joe Burrow. Listen to this. He threw his towel up in the air like it was a flag after Dax Hill knocked the ball away from Shedrick Jackson. Classic Joey B. It was a pretty funny moment from practice, according to the article. I guess you just had to be there. Watch the play in real time and in slow-mo, and watch Burrow's reaction and flag toss below. And y'all fools clicked it. Y'all clicked the damn link to watch him throw his towel in the air as your often injured quarterback pretends to be an official at practice. I mean, and like the article says, and I quote, it was a pretty funny moment at practice.
Sounds pretty funny to me.
This
Sounds
is
pretty
wild
funny
stuff,
to me. Now,
dude.
look,
like, come on.
You poke fun at Joe Burrow's wrist a whole lot. If he's throwing anything, I'm watching the video to make sure he's flicking it through and everything looks all good.
I need to see what arm he threw it with. So I'm gonna contribute towards the click of this stuff.
You are part of the problem.
I'm a part of the problem. Oh, this is a 5-minute 35 clip. Dax Hill and Jordan Battle talking about the hilarious moment in practice that we just had to be there. Real knee slapper. Let me see. Let me fast forward. Come on. Don't do this. Don't make me watch. See, this is what they give you what you want at the end of the clip, so you watch the full thing. 5 different interviews. 5 different people questioned in this video about the flag toss.
It sounds like big news.
All right, so here we go. This is where next week we're going to learn how to share these little things so that everyone can make fun of the stuff that I'm making fun of. Not you, because you're a Bengals fan.
I'm a Bengals fan.
This is great content. I got to wait for this ad. This is treat and prevent. What are we? Oh, migraine. Yeah, migraines are pretty bad. I'm waiting for this ad to hurry up and
Thinking of Jimmy. Thinking of Jimmy migraines.
Oh, yeah. That was bad. I still think he was hungover hanging out with alcoholic Casey, but it's besides the point. Y'all went out, had a good time the night before, and he's trying to pull the I have a migraine today. Okay, here it is. Joe Burrow drops back, throws. Oh, deflected. Oh, here's another ad. What the hell is happening? I'm on the edge of my seat waiting to see this very funny moment from practice, according to reports, and then it goes to another ad. And this is Lady Gaga. Even with all that makeup,
that might be a little bit more interesting to watch than Burrow throwing his towel.
Too much makeup. Let's see. They make you. They don't let you skip the ad. It was right as he was about to throw this towel. I need to know if this was worthy of an actual story.
If it was with the non-surgically repaired hand, I really don't care.
That's what I'm waiting to see. Here we go. All right. Left hand toss way in the air.
What are we doing?
Left hand toss in the air. He knows what he's doing.
He's a pro.
Or he's just not strong enough, not enough mobility to throw that towel high up in the air.
See, if he would have got surgery on Monday instead of Tuesday, he probably would have been fine by now.
I forgot about that line. That was classic you. That was a very serious take that you had, that he's going to be fine
firmly
because it was
that.
a midweek. You're allowed to think that. I'm just giving you a hard time. But, wrist isn't ready. Yeah, I agree. But this is the content. This is the content.
Absolutely.
It is. I don't think you get this with other teams. I could be wrong.
I think it helps that we don't have a basketball team or a hockey team in the city.
Here's your homework.
You're in that sweet spot right now.
I'm curious. Your homework, like I'm in charge of you. But I'm curious. Do other NFL teams do goofy stuff like this? Do our other fan bases as creepily obsessed with their quarterback as you guys are?
My friends who are Giants fans have been sending me Daniel Jones highlights from training
sad.
camp.
That's pathetic.
So that's way worse.
Well, I mean, highlights from training camp, but I mean, like, oh my God. Like, for instance, when the season gets here, it'll be, oh my God, Joe Burrow, he wore a Nike headband. You know what I'm talking about. You know that was like a big talking point. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with you guys? Who cares? Who cares what headband? He's having a season-ending surgery, and you guys are caring about what freaking wristband he's wearing or headband? Wristband. He'll be wearing a lot of wristband. I am curious what the wristband thing's going to look like. Did he wear the glove? Tom Brady wore a glove.
He did. He did.
So, nonetheless, shout out Joey B.
Shaw makes a great point. If the Reds were good for once, this wouldn't be in the news. I think that's absolutely true. If the Reds were, they're playing better now. They're playing much better baseball now. But if the Reds were competing for the Central and in a wild card spot, I don't think you're reading about Joe Burrow's piano playing or towel tosses as much.
So, and Roger says OJ wore a glove. Speaking of OJ, all right. Speaking of Mr. OJ Simpson, did you see that? And I thought this was pretty wild too. So a couple things are being auctioned off, if you will, for OJ Simpson.
Oh, wow.
OJ Simpson's Heisman Trophy is being auctioned off. Okay, I could see why people would want to buy that. Okay, but his driver's license could also be up for sale.
The driver's license?
As lawyer aims to auction off the football star's personal items.
If it's the driver's license that he would have had to show the cop had the Bronco been pulled over, I'm interested. If it's any other license, no thank you.
Do you kind of miss the, hey, Twitter world, it's yours truly? Do you kind of miss that? I do. I'm not going to lie.
More than you could ever know. His Patrick Mahomes Twitter video is my favorite video maybe on the entire internet. I love that video so much. And just every time you're watching it, you start to giggle. You start to have a good time. Then you remember, this man killed his wife. So it's pretty crazy that he was just rolling around on Twitter. Allegedly. Well, not even. He was free. He was a free man.
I'm very keen on defending athletes with the word allegedly, right? Like, you talk about quarterbacks.
It's important.
Allegedly is a very important word. Ask Pat McAfee at old Brett Favre.
Of course.
Old Brett Favre, right? But, yeah, that's wild. So I get why people would want to buy O.J. Simpson's Heisman Trophy, but the driver's license? Now, was that too weird? Guy plays the piano, y'all wet your pants. But buying O.J. Simpson's driver's license, that's where you draw the line.
Can I buy Joe Burrow's game-used ivory piano keys?
I mean,
I'd be all in.
When you're saying game used, I was really curious what direction you were going. Very glad that it was that. Not gonna lie. O.J. Simpson's story for you. So back then, when he first got Twitter, you can reach out to him on the DMs, right? So. Work with Keith Byers over in Dayton, and those two used to be friends back in the day. They used to golf together, okay? So I reached out to him and said, hey, working with Keith Byers in Dayton, would love to have you come on. It would just be football only. I will stay away from any of the outside noise. Would you be willing to come on? And he responded. I was very surprised. It was very wild. I'm driving. I look down. My phone goes off, and it's message from O.J. Simpson. I'm like, this is cool. Okay.
Really cool.
I mean, apparently I like athletes who are bad people. I don't know. I thought it was cool. Okay. So I opened this message and, and it just says, hey, young man, thanks for reaching out, but I'm not doing interviews. But when I do start doing interviews, I'll let you know. I'll add you to my list. And let me tell you, that's terrifying. Now I feel safe. This is the first time I've gotten sleep in forever, since his passing.
Do you think O.J. Simpson died with Justin Kinner still on his list?
On the list? But there's nothing more I'm going to screenshot it and share it. But when he said, I'll add you to my list, a chill went down my spine.
You definitely should have responded there to cover yourself.
It's kind of terrifying.
That's scary. Is there an athlete whose list you would want to be on less than OJ's?
Remember Janikowski? Remember him?
No.
That psycho? I'd say Vontaze Burfict. I'd want to stay off his list too. Kind of a psycho.
That's fair. That's fair.
But I don't know. This guy, he seems kind of reasonable.
You could at least talk it out.
Don't cheat on him, dude.
Yeah.
Just don't cheat on him, and you'll be fine. I mean, making light, being very disrespectful here. I get it, but nonetheless. But the hey Twitter world, yours truly. This dude had no self-awareness. He did not care. He would comment on what was the big trial with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. He would go live on Twitter. He would do video drops on that. He was obsessed with that court case. He would, hey Twitter world, it's yours truly, and then he would go in and give his thoughts on the entire trial. It was awesome stuff.
O.J. Simpson giving his thoughts on the American justice system has to be one of the best categories of viewing of all time.
I mean, it's like when Kim Kardashian, she started the prison reform.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I mean, your dad did help O.J. avoid prison at one point. So, I mean, if there's anyone that would know better than you, I guess.
Works out, yeah, I guess.
Nonetheless, but is what it is. All right. Justin Kinner, Jacob Tissett, Grip It and Rip It here on Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, 144. So we have about 15 minutes left. I got the new logo for the show.
Love it.
I got it. That'll be we'll have a whole new graphics package for the show coming up on Monday. Yep. We're gonna try and add some bells and whistles, I think, but the graphics package might be what we roll out first just to make sure that's all good to go. But I'm excited about that. But starting this in the middle of June. We're going to really have to work.
Interesting point to start a 2-hour, 6 hours a week show, but I love it.
Especially though there's no more practice. There's no more towel throwing by Joe Burrow to entertain us.
Right, no more OTAs. But hopefully we get some contract extensions mixed in there. Trevor ate up a good chunk of the show today, so that's good stuff. It's always a good time, too. You get less of the real stories and more time to dive into the stuff that really matters, like the aliens from Monday.
I have my non-sports story. I got to go back and find it. By the way, I want to use this moment to give a shout out to the city of Kettering. Don't like y'all. Y'all need to do a way better job of coordinating when you're going to dig up streets for 2 months at a time and then cover up the only entrances to a local business and then tell us to go park in a lot that we did not have permission to, so then that company gets mad. Just want to give y'all a shout out. I know y'all listen, so howdy. There's that. I have to do one a day.
Love that.
Love that.
Stay consistent.
I have to do one a day. By the way, did you see that Twitter now you can't see what people like?
I did see that.
That's kind of wild. That's kind of wild.
I don't like it. I loved scrolling through athletes' likes when they were liking tweets about them leaving different schools or different teams or anything like that. That was always the best. And I'm sure pretty soon you won't be able to see who people are following either. So you'll lose the ability to track, when Justin Fields unfollows the Bears in the middle of this offseason or something like that, which is always fun.
I think you could still track the follow.
Yeah, but that's probably going to go next if I had to guess.
So, yeah, that's interesting nonetheless. Someone did say Kanye's list. You don't want to be on Kanye's list.
Probably fair.
We're not there yet, but we're maybe getting there. I mean, you know what I mean? I'm just saying, a little scary sometimes, nonetheless. But so that happened. Let's see. I'm trying to find. So here it is. So Zach Taylor. This is another example of a segment that I wish I could share this. So I'm defending my guy, Zach Taylor. But there's some people that believe that Zach Taylor kind of threw some shots at T. Higgins. Okay. So he was wrapping up their camp, media availability. He was asked about Jamar Chase showing up. Zach Taylor praises Jamar Chase for showing up in great shape to mandatory minicamp, making a reference to others who don't. And right away, rather than it being about complimenting Jamar Chase, it was, who could he be talking about? Now, to be fair, I'll defend Zach Taylor slightly on this. Zach Taylor seems to me like one of the most genuine coaches in the NFL. I don't think there's a more genuine person than Zach Taylor. I really like Zach Taylor. I don't think he's the best coach in the NFL by any means. I wouldn't be angry if he was my coach. I think I don't know. Like most coaches, when things are going well, of course he looks the part, right? I don't know. I mean, Bill Belichick couldn't even look the part when the Patriots were losing. And hell, they were technically winning they made a playoff and people were still mad in the post-Tom Brady era. So all coaches look goofy when they lose. But overall, this team never quits on them. All right, this team there's never a time. I do get frustrated when the fan base turns on them in September every year. Fire them, give up the play calling, the same play calling that led you to a Super Bowl. That's apparently the problem in September. Drives me nuts every year. Not saying you can't upgrade a head coach, but I don't think that of all the issues, second worst defense in the NFL last year, second worst run game in the NFL last year, I don't think that head coach is even remotely even in the stratosphere of things that are wrong with the Cincinnati Bengals. So let's be clear. I think he's a genuine dude. So I wish I could play the clip for you, but he would basically, to ad-lib here a little bit, he goes on to say, how much of he respected the fact that Jamar Chase going into his last year, he could be sitting out right now demanding a contract extension. He could be, saying, hey, look, Justin Jefferson got paid. It's my turn. I'm not going to show up until we start the negotiations or we get a deal done, this, that, and the other. I know we're a year out from that probably really being the case, but what it got turned into is a backhanded compliment, or at least a compliment for Jamar Chase, but kind of a subliminal shot at a jab at T Higgins. I don't think Zach Taylor's taking a shot at T Higgins. I don't think anyone has a problem with T Higgins not being there. I don't have a problem with T Higgins not being there. I don't have a problem with anybody not showing up to mandatory stuff like this, because I don't know how a team drastically gets better with 3 days in June and then this disappears for a month. I still think, we talked about this the other day, I think it's the most overrated talking point in professional sports. Like this Aaron Rodgers thing, I'm a big Aaron Rodgers guy. I find him very interesting.
Oh, I am too.
Okay? Fascinated by him. I don't think it's a good look for why he's not there, because of all the talking points of him saying, hey, we got to get rid of anything that doesn't do with winning, got to get rid of it, and then you skip mandatory minicamp. So it's not the optics aren't good, but I do think the mandatory anything is dumb. I think that the dead periods is dumb. I think that these are professional athletes. They're paid millions of dollars. I think these NFL teams, they invest billions of dollars into this stuff. I don't believe that there should be such thing as any dead period. I believe that teams should be able to decide if they want to practice and work out as much or little as they want. I have no problem with athletes who want to do stuff on their own off to the side. I do think it's better when you work out together for that team cohesion. But let's be clear. If there's chemistry issues with the Bengals in September, okay, guess what? It has nothing to do with T. Higgins not showing up for 3 days in June. So would love to twist this. I would love to be the anti-Bengal guy that's looking for a reason to crap on him. I'm not doing that. Stop twisting Zach Taylor's words. He was simply, because of context and knowing who Zach Taylor is, he was simply complimenting Jamar Chase, because you look around the league, so many people not showing up to mandatory minicamp for the pennies fine that they're going to get. He was simply, talking about that because Jamar Chase, now a true NFL veteran now, being looked at as a leader, and him showing up is a big deal, because these athletes, mandatory or not, they don't have to. I just think it's dumb to have these little dead periods or non-dead periods, or whatever you want to call them. Kind of silly to me.
Yeah, if you're not going to spin it against T or anti-Bengals, I guess I can't either. So we'll say it's just a straight
towel on the play.
Just a straight up compliment to Jamar. I think I agree. I don't think there's any reason the Bengals would hold any animosity towards T. Higgins not being here. There's no reason to really demand him. Obviously, he'll be fined, because I guess he won't be fined because he hasn't signed the contract yet. So it's not even truly mandatory for T. He can't be fined. He's not on the roster. So yeah, I think it's a whole nothing burger. I think people are trying to find new stories about T. Higgins as much as they can, since he's still not here and nothing new is coming out. I think both sides have just come to the same conclusion at this point, and it's we're going to play this year and $21 million or $22 million, whatever the franchise tag is, and then you're going to be elsewhere next year. And I think both sides have come to a place where they're fine with that conclusion. And there was a point earlier this summer where T. Higgins seemed clearly upset about not being a long-term resident here in Cincinnati, and where the Bengals seem to have some anger towards T for not, coming down from his level of asking price with the contract. I think all that is kind of past. You realize where everyone stands, and the Bengals aren't going to meet that price that he wants, that he's going to get elsewhere. I mean, T's going to get the top wide receiver money he's asking for. It's just a matter of where. And if it wasn't for Jamar Chase, maybe that would be in Cincinnati. But it's just not feasible to give $100 million in guaranteed money or $100 million in contract money to 3 players on the roster. It's just not a way to go about building a true championship team. So I don't really think it's anything to do with T. Higgins. I think every side is kind of fine with where they stand now. I have little to no worry about T. Higgins being here for the Week 1 kickoff.
Yeah, I don't either. As I've said, my only, and we talked about this the other day lightly, that my only pushback to the T. Higgins not signing the franchise tag and sitting out is because you have zero leverage.
Right.
You're not, by not showing up and by not signing it, it's not putting pressure on the Bengals front office to get a deal done with you. There's no deal. There's not there. Like I defended the Bengals here when people got mad and said, well, I have a problem with the fact that they haven't even communicated with them. Well, the bottom line is why communicate with them when there's nothing to communicate with them about? Like, do you want them to call him into their office and say, hey, we wanted to bring you in here to not get a deal done with you? Like, they don't have – it's not that they don't want him on the team. They want him, but they're at the point now where you have to be selective with who you give money to. Let me ask you, a lot of people, Bengals fans, bully everybody on social media that throws this out there, and I'm going to throw it out there. I think with as expensive as these wide receivers are getting, if T is as good as what you and everyone says, and I believe he's really good, and Joe Burrow is as good as what you guys say he is. Like the Kansas City Chiefs looked at Patrick Mahomes and said, look, we don't want to get rid of Tyreek Hill, but we know you're so good that we can do this without him. We trust you to move forward without Tyreek Hill. The Bengals almost like don't trust Joe Burrow to move on without a Jamar Chase. Like I think Joe Burrow, if he is as Patrick Mahomes, he's good enough to win football games and run an offense that doesn't have a premier wide receiver. If you look at the premier wide receivers across the NFL, outside of the Eagles right now, the highest paid wide receivers, they're all playing with rookies or non-elite quarterbacks.
Right.
So it's weird to me that we're just assuming that there's going to be no issue whatsoever in the Bengals getting a deal done with Jamar Chase. I would like to think that it's going to be a smooth process, but the more you think about it, I mean, it's kind of the same confidence that everyone is using to say they're going to get a deal done with Jamar Chase was the same confidence from 2 years ago when everyone said the Bengals, there's no way they're going to let Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins split apart. So they're cool. I do think they'll get a deal done with Jamar Chase, but I do think it'll get ugly. And I have to wonder, it makes more take emotion out of it. You want Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow to not be broken apart. You want them to be together.
Right.
But I think it makes way more business sense. You still provide Joe Burrow with an elite wide receiver in T. Higgins. You save $10 million by going with him versus Jamar Chase. You use that $10 million to keep that offensive line bolstered, which I like the extension of Karras, by the way. We'll get to that in a moment. Or you put that money on the defensive side of the ball. I'm just saying, Jamar Chase, you want him and Joe Burrow long term. But want and need are two different things. Do you need Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase long term? I just watched Patrick Mahomes, who you guys say he's an equal to. I just watched him win back-to-back Super Bowls without an elite wide receiver. But Joe Burrow needs Jamar Chase. I get it. It's a weird thing to say, but I'm just saying I think it makes more business sense to at least look at the T. Higgins option over Jamar Chase, but I know that's not how it's going to go down.
I think we need to be completely fair about what happened in Kansas City. They traded Tyreek Hill. They traded their second best weapon. Travis Kelce is the number one receiver on that team. That offense runs through Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is the number one weapon on that team.
Now,
even when Tyreek Hill was there, Travis Kelce was the engine of that offense. Tyreek Hill had the numbers and everything because he lined up on the outside. But without Travis Kelce in the middle of that offense, in the middle of the zones on defense, that offense was not nearly the same. So they moved their second best weapon for Mahomes to get the ball rolling, and they still had the number one paid elite tight end, first ballot Hall of Famer on that roster. If the Bengals had Travis Kelce, sure, I could say move the other two receivers and rock with that, but a $10 million gap between Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, I think Jamar Chase is over $10 million better than T. Higgins, if that makes sense. I think Jamar Chase is neck and neck with Justin Jefferson. I know we can have the debate or whatever, but I think he's right up there as the number 2 or number 3 best receiver in the entire league. I think T. Higgins falls somewhere in the 12 to 18 range, probably right around that top 15 barrier. So I think it's a bigger difference between the two of them than if you had a guy like Travis Kelce who's a bona fide number 1. You can run everything through him. We've never seen T. Higgins as the number 1. You can point to the stats when Jamar is out and he performs well. Sure, I get that, but there's a difference between stepping into the number 1 role briefly and being a number 1 receiver on the team. I think Jamar Chase is in a world of his own with a guy like Justin Jefferson, with a guy like Tyreek Hill, where you do pay those guys and you don't really think about it contract-wise.
But it's Joey B. He could win with anybody, right? You could throw anyone out there.
I don't disagree with that, but if you have a chance to have the number 1 receiver in the league and a number 1 quarterback in the league. And did you know that they played together on that 2019 National Championship team?
I did.
Justin Jefferson on that team as well. Yep. Maybe he ends up in Cincinnati at some point.
Don't do that. Because there are some people who are foolish enough to actually believe that some of that stuff. And that's what was wild. And that's what was frustrating. But you know what? Good for them. Good for them. But yeah, no. Look, I say all that to say T. Higgins will not be a Bengal after 24.
Right.
Jamar Chase will be a Bengal moving forward. But last thing on this. We did cap or no cap last week. Here's a little random cap or no. Cap or no cap, Mr. National Champion Jacob Tissett. Cap or no cap, cap meaning lie, no cap meaning truth. Cap or no cap, Jamar Chase will get an extension without any kind of negotiation tactics such as holding out or any kind of drama. Will it be a smooth negotiation?
No. Cap. I think it's going to be very, very similar to what happened with Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson obviously ended up back in Minnesota. He's going to be there by the time everything's mandatory. He doesn't miss anything that matters. But for about 3 months there, we thought Justin Jefferson was getting traded or at least ending up somewhere else. So I think it's going to be very similar. I have zero doubt in my mind that Jamar Chase is going to be a Bengal for maybe not his career, but at least for the meat of his career for the next 5 years or so. I think they would probably link that contract up with Burrow's length and try to just schedule that out. So a 3-4 year deal for Chase instead of a normal 5 to go past that Burrow contract. I think you just link those contracts together. You really truly define the Super Bowl window and then go for it in there. But I really have no question about Jamar Chase staying with the Bengals, and I don't think it's going to be super smooth though. I mean, with any receiver is the most diva position in the entire league. He's going to want his money. We'll see what happens with a guy like CeeDee Lamb maybe getting paid before him. He's up right now as well. If he passes the Justin Jefferson mark, then we have a whole nother conversation to have, because then you get into receivers who aren't as good as other receivers getting paid more money, and then you have the whole debate we just had with quarterbacks, with the market being the market. So I don't know what Jamar Chase will get, but I think whatever the number one receiver is getting paid when he goes into the Bengals office for the final negotiations, whenever that might be, this summer, next summer, during the season, whatever, he's just going to get $1 million more than that.
And it's always that it's like The Price is Right. Are you? Oh, did I just age myself with you?
No, I got it.
You're 22 years old.
I never saw The Price is Right, but I understand the reference.
The price is wrong. Fill in the blank. So there's that. But all right, grip it and rip it here on Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. How the hell is it 2?
It's already 2. We flew by.
You're like, no, it's 2. You've been doing a live show since 10. You're like, it's definitely 2.
No, it's
Friday.
Flies.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, it flies over here when you have so much more stuff going on.
So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff we didn't get to that
right.
I need to, the Donovan Mitchell and the Cavaliers news, of course. The Browns had a couple guys get banged up in camp. We'll talk about that. I wanted to get the bobblehead thing. Going to be so outdated by the time we get to it. But, man, what a wild night that was with the bobblehead stuff, too, with people on the resale market as far as that's concerned. I'm here to tell you, I bought 6 of these LA bobbleheads at the old office. I'm just saying.
Do you really?
Oh, yeah. I didn't know I was sitting on a gold mine.
It's like $700, I think.
I know. I might have to sell them, and it's going to be a night out for Chatterbox. I'm just going to throw it out there. As far as that's concerned, we didn't even talk about the conference change, the conference name change for the Big 12 possibly. Love the idea. Outside the box. We'll get to that on Monday.
I do too.
New graphics package. We'll talk about all that stuff on Monday on Grip It or Rip It. So we head into the weekend. But we'll end every show with our non-sports headline of the day. You ready for our non-sports headline of the day?
I'm ready.
And people, I would love people to chime in. I would love people to send in candidates for stories that are non-sports stories of the day. How about this one? Are you familiar with Kris Jenner?
I am.
All right. You know that the
momager.
Yeah, the momager. So did you know that the 68-year-old Kris Jenner says she wants to get pregnant again?
Good for her.
Good for her.
Good for her.
Her reasoning, your uterus doesn't age.
Is that scientifically
true?
Scientifically
true?
I'm not a doctor. Never claimed to be a doctor, but for some reason I'm doubting the science on that. I don't know. Maybe.
Nonetheless. But
good for her.
That is your non-sports story of the day.
Do we need more Jenners / Kardashians in this world?
No, so many ways to go with that will. I made it this far without getting canceled. I would hate to get canceled at 2 o'clock on a Friday, dude. That would just be horrendous. All right, man. Hey, appreciate you. Excited to be doing this show moving forward. We threw out just a couple test episodes this week. And I think we're going to build this. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. We wanted to have a different look, a different sound than off the bench, because you guys have established something great with that, and we just wanted to extend that type of programming more throughout the day. But appreciate everyone that hangs out in the chat on YouTube. I mean, the amount of people that tune in on Twitter is pretty dang cool too. So that's pretty neat, interacting with everybody. So we want to continue to grow this, and we're going to get more interactive. We're going to hopefully get that phone going too, and we'll have some fun with this
for sure,
as far as that's concerned. But all right, that wraps it up. Closing thoughts for you?
All good to go. It's fun 2 days. Excited to get this thing really rolling starting next week.
All right, good stuff. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. That wraps it up for us here on Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. For Jacob Tissett, I'm Justin Kinner. This has been Grip It and Rip It here on a Friday. We'll be back on Monday at noon.